All right, good morning. Sorry we're a minute late here. Got a lot going on this morning. It is a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I am the aforementioned Glenn Clark. Today's show is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Your unique personality is also a very interesting one. Yes, Griffin.
So we're talking about the Mount St. Mary's overtime win last night?
Yes, big win. They get another shot at Iona tonight. That's the one. That's what we're discussing. Hey, who won this? I don't even know. Who won the CAA?
Charleston did win.
Well, and,
very good game. Close.
Probably for the best. They deserve to be in the tournament, and if they had lost, they probably would have been left out. So, all good. I'd rather it be Towson, but it's what it is. All right, we got a lot to do today. Drew's going to join us in a minute. Coming up in a bit, Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk, will check in with us. Later on in the show, Will Brinson from CBS Sports. Also, back to NBC, Peter King will join us, as we all know what we're talking about today. And we're trying to get some various opinions about what's unfolded in the last 24 hours. I have kind of gone in ad nauseum on Twitter, so you probably have seen where I'm at with everything. I think it's very interesting what the Ravens knew before they made the decision that they made. I think we're going to use the word collusion, and we can talk about it a lot. I think it's a reasonable word to bring up. Is it provable? Of course it's not provable. Probably not provable. I mean, I don't know what could come out in Discovery if it ever got there, but it's probably not provable. It's reasonable, however. It's a reasonable assumption to make. How much that line is held, one of the things that I think people are dramatically overreacting to is the idea that every team is out. I have to explain this as much as I possibly can. If you come out in the last 24 hours and say, oh, we're interested, and you end up not getting Lamar Jackson, you've just handed yourself a loss you didn't need to take publicly. Publicly, everybody who covers your team and everyone who cares about your team, tweets about your team, is going to say the following thing. Well, they lost out on Lamar Jackson. Well, you might not have actually ever had a shot. It might be that the only contract that you possibly could have offered would have been one that the Ravens were going to match anyway. So you're taking a loss you don't need to take. And particularly given that Lamar Jackson doesn't have an agent who's going to leak out to the media which teams are involved. So why in the world, if you're one of these teams, would you be going out of your way to sign yourself up to publicly take an L that you don't need to? Now, I get it. It shouldn't be this deep. And I would love to live in a world where there's far more honesty and transparency. That would be wonderful. But come on, man. We've been doing this for far too long. I told a story yesterday. Once upon a time, I had been told the Ravens were interested in Malcolm Floyd. He was a free agent at one point. And I was getting a source from the Ravens, and two separate sources, but I happen to know they told Drew the same thing. Source from the Ravens said, dude, I don't know why you're going on about this. We're not in on Malcolm Floyd. Where literally another league source that I had said, dude, the Chargers are about to put a contract on the table that they have to because they just saw the contract that the Ravens offered Malcolm Floyd. Now, I can't tell you exactly what's true in all of that, but I got two messages within the span of about 10 minutes. The Ravens, if they were going to lose out on Malcolm Floyd, didn't want anyone to think that they had lost out on somebody, because you never want to make it seem like you lost out on your guy, because then you're going to be held to that. Whatever that player does, it's going to be measured against you. If you're not going to get the player, you'd rather no one think that you ever were interested in that player. It's way easier to say, no, we were never in on that guy. No, allow there to be debate about whether or not you should have been, than it is to lose on a player. Losing on a player is unnecessary. You have to play 17 games. You're going to lose a certain number of them. Most of the teams that we're talking about lost a bunch of them. There is no reason why they would want to sign up for another loss. Which doesn't mean they might not also legitimately be in on Lamar Jackson. It's totally possible that some of these teams have legitimately decided that they are not going to swim in those waters for any number of reasons. Be it collusion, be it, that they've just decided that as far as they're willing to go, they believe the Ravens are going to match and they don't really have a chance, so they need to be more practical in their quarterback answers. Be it that they simply don't think it's worth it. It's totally possible. God only knows. God only knows what he's coming in here to do. Who knows? But it's possible.
I was going to ask you what you think.
Yeah, were you? It's possible. About.
I'm taking Scheffler.
Okay, all right.
I mean,
well, which one is this one? This is the players this weekend?
I assume that's what you brought me in for.
Yeah.
That's where I give you.
You know.
That's where
you know me.
That's where I give you my.
Gotta get my hard-hitting analysis on the players.
And I love Corey Connors.
Yeah,
as a dark horse.
Definitely know who that is. That's definitely a person
give me
I'm
your
aware
picks.
of.
Let's get right to it.
You know who I'm picking.
Yeah, I do know who you're picking.
It's time, man.
I hear you.
What are we gonna do when he passes? By the way, we better do it. You better
he
do
might be dead already for all.
I don't think
he's
so.
Not.
You better do
You'll
the
have
right
to come
thing.
up with a new name.
No, I'm saying
you'll
better,
say like Billy Casper, and I'll be like, no, he is dead.
I don't even know who that is. I think I do know who that is. No, you better take an hour on the fan. We better do a memorial show.
Oh, for Chi-Chi.
For Chi-Chi at that point.
The only guy who ever got robbed at gunpoint in Puerto Rico and thanked the robbers of the house for not taking his jewelry.
That's the thing that happened. I'm talking about Drew. And will that? By the way, Florio is going to join us in like 6 minutes, so we'll talk to him then.
Okay.
But
I'm doing business, huh?
I think he's doing all right. Yeah. He's in fact so much so
he
that
used to beg to come on our show in Baltimore.
That's a fact.
That's the hilarious
now
part.
I'm pretty sure Griffin had to beg him.
Right.
In order to come on.
He used to
this
call
morning.
us and go, you guys got space for me on Thursday?
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on. What I'm saying now is that there is a bit of overreaction to the number of teams that are allegedly saying they're out on Lamar Jackson, because no one wants you to know that they're in on someone in case they don't get someone, which doesn't mean that some of these teams might not be telling the truth. It might
no
vary.
one wants to know that we're in the event we don't get them. Gotcha.
Yeah, you're taking an unnecessary loss.
Yeah, I'm not asking her out on a date because she might say no.
Well, no,
if she does.
I'm not telling my buddy that I'm asking her out on a date because I might get embarrassed by it.
Right.
I might still ask her.
Right.
And end up missing out, but I would rather my friends not be able to dunk on me.
It always goes back to girls.
It always does go back to girls.
Girls are golf.
But this is my point being, like, if the Atlanta Falcons if they are in on Lamar Jackson, and they might very well not be in on Lamar Jackson, it's possible. But if they are in on Lamar Jackson, what they don't want is to not get Lamar Jackson, then have everyone who covers them, an entire fan base, say, well, you lost out on Watson last year, now you lost out on Lamar this year.
Sure.
You're
I mean, we go through that here all the time in Baltimore.
Correct.
Every time a wide receiver doesn't sign here, we get the organization gets annihilated because they allowed that guy to get away.
And most of those are guys that we don't even know if they ever had any interest in. They would prefer you not think that they were trying to get someone.
Right.
So
I don't put any. I mean, look, I get it that it's a business of sources and that there are always reasons why agents or, in some cases, teams, but for the most part, it's always the agent or the player or whatever. I get why there are leaks. I understand that. But unless I hear a team flat out say, we're not interested in Lamar, I don't know. I take that stuff with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and even if they said that, all they do is lie all the time at this point.
Correct.
Like,
if I don't hear the Atlanta GM on some radio show tonight say, yeah, we're just not interested in Lamar. We don't want to pay the money. We don't want to give up the picks. We're happy with.
I'm still going to shake my.
I know, but
there's no penalty for it. There's no penalty for lying.
Understood. But at least if I hear that,
yeah, I mean, I get it.
I have him on the rec. Now I can say, okay, well, the Falcons said they're not interested.
I
understand
that. I understand.
I'm
going to
take that way more seriously than I am someone saying, source tells me the Falcons aren't interested. You could just be making that up.
But Steve Bisciotti said the Ravens weren't drafting a quarterback in 2018.
Right.
Like, I just, none of it means anything anymore. It's all theater, and it's all what they want you to believe because they're trying to do business.
Totally get it.
even if they, at my point being, even if the GM said it, I would still dismiss it and say I have no idea if it's true or not. Because in 2 weeks I could hear a report that you are interested, or we could see that you're talking to somebody, you're bringing them in for. And what is the recourse? What is the penalty? What happens to you when we find out you were lying? Nothing.
Yeah, right.
Nothing at all.
Right.
Nothing happens. There is no reason to tell the truth. There's no benefit for these teams to tell the truth.
Well, I mean, if you're the Falcons, as an example, you would like other teams to think you're not interested.
Right, because you would prefer that there's less interest and the price is driven down in general.
Listen, Lamar, do me a favor.
Right.
I don't need you running around telling people we're talking to you. Come on in for a steak. We'll take you out. We'll figure it out if we can do this or not. We're not going to draw this out. We're not that they would. We're not doing this for 25 months like you just did with the Ravens. We're going to do this in 25 hours.
Correct.
You either are in or you're out, and you're not going to take our offer and fly out to Houston or fly to Las Vegas. Like, you want to play in Atlanta, let's get it done. That would be the way you would do it if you were a team interested in him.
Correct.
You would bring him in, lock him in, and say...
And you would say, by the way, and we have to do it this way because if you're not going to be our guy, then we need to figure out who our guy is going to be.
Right, and we're not... And
we got to move on.
And what you said, too, we're not going to be embarrassed by you taking our, whatever, $245 million offer or $280 million, whatever it is. We're not going to be embarrassed by you taking our offer and going out to 3 other teams. We're just not. Like, you either want to play for the Falcons. We got a great history here in Atlanta. I don't know if you've been following us.
Right.
We're not going to let you go peddle yourself to another team up it to 290, then come back to us and go, boy, I love Atlanta so much. I'll do it for $300 million. Like, we're not doing that.
Yep.
That would be what I would say if I were a team he called. I assume that's what's going on. He must be calling around. How weird would that be, by the way, today to be in your office, be the general manager of the Houston Texans, and your secretary goes, someone named Lamar Jackson's on the phone. And Lamar goes, hey, man, you want me?
Right.
Like, I mean, how weird would that be?
It would be
right?
very strange. It would be very strange.
I don't know.
Which, again, I don't know anything. I can't tell you. Here's what I can tell you with certainty. The only thing that I could say I can report
Texans
is
have
that,
the best helmets?
Yeah, they you know what? Of all the things that you and I fight about, we don't really fight about this
Texans
one. They have
the best
amazing helmets.
Go ahead and report that. Glenn Clark
no
reporting. Put that out on Twitter. Glenn Clark is reporting.
Breaking. No, I can tell you with definitively that as of 2 weeks ago, I had been told the Falcons were obsessed with Lamar Jackson. I can tell you secondhand, not directly from a source, but secondhand, that they were making regular calls to Baltimore about Lamar Jackson and how this was all going to go. Now, that doesn't mean that something didn't change. My source, weirdly, after yesterday they denied, my source that I reached out to didn't get back to me yesterday. So I can't follow up with anything. Yeah, of all the times. Really
Thanks a lot,
appreciate it.
Coleman.
Yeah, believe it or not the one that I was using in this instance. Believe it or not, I went a different way.
He did work in Atlanta for a while.
I believe that is
that's
true.
That's why I put it together.
I believe that is true. It was Mark Zinno, actually.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, yeah, well, Mark still works. Well, I don't know if he still works there
I think
or
he
not.
does. I think that's the case. Hey, gambling can be fun, but you should set a limit and stay within it. Remember that if you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org. It's like a reunion of sorts.
And I bet you 5-1 you don't call.
It's not a good. That's really bad. It's like a reunion of sorts this morning. We used to chat with this guy all the time on our old show. We could use a lawyer's perspective given the events of the last 24 hours. Joining us now, Pro Football Talk, NBC Sports, the author of the new book, Father of Mine. He'll tell us about that in a second. He is our friend, Mr. Mike Florio, and he's back with us. Mike, it's Glenn, and Drew Forrester is in with me this morning. It is great to catch up. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Guys, great to be with you. How's everything in Baltimore? Well, I know how everything is in Baltimore.
Hey, have you seen the Orioles pitching rotation, Mike? It's going great, man. We're excited.
The word is it's on fire, Mike. That's how everything is going in Baltimore.
Can I ask you a stupid question?
Sure.
And I don't mean to sound like an ass when I say this. When's the last time the Orioles were good?
They were really good in 14 when they lost to the Royals in the ALCS.
Okay.
They were really good that year.
Yeah, if Manny Machado
That's not that long ago.
They got the wrong end of the Royals pitching draw in that series, and they had no Machado,
and they had no Chris Davis.
They lost the first 2 at home, and it kind of fizzled from there. They were really good that year.
This is what we brought Mike on, by the way, for this morning. Is to do
and we're coming back too, Florio. You watch and see.
Breakdown of 2014. Mike, broadly, what do you make of the last 24 hours? What do you think we have actually learned versus what do you think is just noise at this point?
Well, I think that a year ago we would have been in a position where the Ravens were applying the franchise tag to Lamar Jackson today. And over the course of the past year, circumstances changed enough that made the Ravens comfortable with the idea of going non-exclusive and taking their chances on someone else signing him to an offer sheet that they either couldn't or wouldn't match. I think they'll be inclined to match most offer sheets unless someone does a 5-year fully guaranteed contract for Lamar Jackson. And I think the Ravens are confident it won't happen because of the Deshaun Watson deal, because of the reaction to the Deshaun Watson deal, because of the collusion that is inherent to this process. These quarterly meetings that the NFL does, it's the equivalent of bringing together the CEO of McDonald's, Burger King, Arby's, Subway, Taco Bell, Long John Silver's, and every other fast food restaurant, and they come up with common business strategies that are completely and totally illegal as antitrust violations, but that's what happens, and it's never provable because it's all verbal, and no one's ever going to admit to it. No one's going to admit they ordered the code red. And this is how we got to the point where no one wants to do a fully guaranteed contract because of the blowback that the Browns got last year. So that's where we are. Non-exclusive tag. Lamar's going to have the ability to go out and negotiate with other teams. And I don't think it's a coincidence that teams are slamming the door before he even approaches the front porch because they don't want to get to the point where they say, oh, Lamar wants 5 years fully guaranteed. Sorry, we're not doing that.
But do you believe all of Mike? I only say this because in the reporting that I've done over the years, I know damn well that, for example, if the Ravens might not get a player, they don't want the public to think they were ever in on that player because they don't want to take an unnecessary loss in the offseason. Do you believe that every team that told a reporter yesterday they wouldn't be in Lamar Jackson, definitely there's no chance that team actually would be?
Well, the broader question is, are these teams comfortable lying to a reporter who's going to take the blowback if the Falcons get in, if the Panthers get in, if the Dolphins get in? And that's a broader relationship issue that from time to time teams will just say, oh, well, the reporter will get over it. But I can't recall this kind of common persistent reaction because what we usually see in the NFL, and we played the sound today on PFT Live from both Panthers coach Frank Reich last week at the Combine and Falcons GM Terry Fontenot, two of the teams that are reportedly out before they even got to the point where they could make a phone call to Lamar Jackson. And both Reich and Fontenot said last week, we're going to consider all options. We're going to look at everything. Reich said it would be malpractice to not do so. So how do you get to the point where you're out on Lamar Jackson before you can even talk to him, but you know you have the ability to talk to him? Why would you not talk to him? You brought in Derek Carr. Why would you not bring in Lamar Jackson? Why would you not go to South Florida to sit down with Lamar Jackson? Why would you not find out what he really wants? Why are we relying upon supposition and reporting and rumor and innuendo? It was just 12 days ago, Stephen A. Smith claimed he spoke to someone from Lamar's camp who said he's never asked for a fully guaranteed contract. Wouldn't you want to ask Lamar, point blank, is this true? I just feel like these teams do not want to get close to the fire, so close to the fire that it's easier to prove that they're colluding when it comes to the issue of fully guaranteed contracts. That's what these circumstances suggest to me.
I would think that's probably the focal point, right? Like if you're an owner, and again, you know how this works, Mike. Nothing's ever in text, nothing's by email. You say to your GM, "Hey, let's go in the cafeteria real quick and have a bite to eat." And when the offensive line coach comes over to join you, you're like, "We're good today. Florio and I are talking."
Nice private conversation.
And you say to him, "Hey, look, what I can't have is it come out that Lamar wanted. I'm making these numbers up. 5 years, $300 million, and it had to be guaranteed, and we don't want to touch that. I can't have that happen." I think there's a very valid point to that amongst teams individually, but as a group, that the owners are saying to their own people, just don't even get involved in it because like you said, you're too close to the fire. Don't even get remotely near it. We can't now. If he comes around and says 5 years, $300 million, and $200 million of it guaranteed, now we might want to play. But other than that, we have no interest in playing. I think there's some validity to that for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. When has there been a former MVP, franchise quarterback who's available to be spoken to in any setting? It never happens with unrestricted free agency. It rarely happens with franchise tag non-exclusive level where you can talk to the guy. Why would you not at least talk to the guy? It is ludicrous to me, and it points to this idea that last year in the aftermath of the Deshaun Watson deal, It was so clear that the Browns became vilified and they got the cold shoulder and everyone was upset. Steve Bisciotti came out and said, this is going to make it harder to do business. What more do you need to prove that there is collusive activity among these teams that have the ability under the CBA to give out fully guaranteed contracts? I just think it stinks, and I also think there's no way to prove it. They're smart enough to know how to prove it or to know how to avoid having any proof to that kind of activity.
Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, NBC Sports, with us here on GCR. Mike, to that point, and part of the reason I really wanted to talk to you today, because you're a lawyer, is what if the NFLPA and Lamar Jackson wanted to explore this? We saw this with Colin Kaepernick a couple years ago. Again, almost certainly was never going to be able to be proven, but the NFL knew how damaging the process was going to be and chose to settle, for at least a small number at that point. Like, what if this was a fight that Lamar Jackson or the NFLPA wanted to take on to attempt to at least force a settlement in this process? And, would it be possible if Lamar Jackson was trying to continue playing?
Well, the prevailing thought is Kaepernick settled between somewhere like $5 and $10 million, which when you divide it by 32 teams really isn't that much money. But one thing to remember, the union's already filed a grievance as it relates to collusion for certain quarterbacks not getting fully guaranteed contracts. And part of the argument is Russell Wilson should have gotten one, Kyler Murray should have gotten one, and it comes down to how aggressively their agents even pushed for one. But that is already out there, which is all the more reason for teams to be careful. They already know that the NFLPA is watching. They already know that this grievance has happened, and there could be another one now, just based upon the idea that there's collusion, not in the refusal to give him a 5-year fully guaranteed contract, but collusion in the refusal to even talk to him. That's what's so stunning about this. Why would you not even try to talk to him? Why would you not pick up the phone and call him? Why would you not take advantage of the opportunity to do your due diligence? They do so much of that with players who are in the draft class, players who are going to become free agents, players who are available to be signed right now, players who could be traded for. You always are looking and looking and looking for ways to make your team better. And here's Lamar Jackson, and you're not even going to have the conversation. You're not even going to pick up the phone and dial the number. That's what's so weird to me. And, guys, another point related to this in a way, this gets back to the core problem. And, people think whenever I say this that I'm being bought and paid for by the agents. They're not nearly paying me enough if that's the case. He needs an agent.
No doubt.
He needs an agent
No doubt.
now more than ever, because this is when you can activate that agent to approach the Panthers, approach the Falcons, approach the Dolphins. And actually, what you also can do, if you get one of the agents that's really connected with media people, and it wouldn't be the first time this has happened, where, the not necessarily true leak is made to Adam Schefter or whoever that multiple teams are seriously considering Lamar Jackson. All the stuff that when we see it, we kind of roll our eyes, that stuff would be out there now too. And all it takes is enough to get one team to be willing to pursue Lamar Jackson. A good agent would be making all those things work in Lamar Jackson's favor right now.
I guess the one thing from the Ravens' standpoint, and maybe from Lamar's too, so now I'm going to focus just on this scenario here, because I do believe in their heart that the Ravens want him. I mean, there is no question that they want him to be their quarterback. What they don't want to do is overpay him, and that now we can sit here and argue all day about that. But that's what they don't. They don't want to overpay him, and he wants to be paid/overpaid, and I get that too. One thing that I would wonder is there any chance at all, Mike, that this is not repairable? Is there any chance that this has been done in such a clumsy way by both of them? I think it's very fair to say the Ravens have been clumsy about it, and so has Lamar. And is there any thought that this is just a marriage that can't be resolved?
Absolutely. And I look at it this way. You could make the argument that if they truly wanted to keep this guy long-term, they would have used the exclusive franchise tag and put $45 million on the table for 2023 in the event they can't work out a long-term deal. And then for 24, it would be $54 million. $99 million over 2 years is not a bad a couple of paydays for Lamar Jackson. And I think it's the kind of gesture that would avoid him coming to the conclusion that he just wants out. Because I look at it this way. If no one signs him to an offer sheet, and if he and the Ravens fail to do a long-term deal by July 15, that's the deadline for doing a multi-year deal with a franchise tag player. He could go to the Ravens after July 15 and say, hey, I want 45. I'm not playing for 32.4. I want 45. He can do that. They can pay him more than 32.4. They just can't do a multi-year deal. And I'm not showing up for anything less than 45. And if they say, sorry, it's 32.4, I think there's a chance he doesn't play at all this year. I'm not saying he won't. I'm not predicting it, but it wouldn't surprise me if the dominoes fall in a way that we get to July 16. He has no long-term deal. He's under the non-exclusive tender of $32.4 million, and he just says, guys, unless you pay me 45, I'm not playing this year.
And then the Jacoby Brissett era begins in Baltimore.
Yeah, that's exciting times. Mike, is there a team that you think is a wild card still in all of this? You know, the only team that we sort of got any report of interest was the Raiders, and we believe them to be cash poor. Is there somebody that you still think, even among the teams that have said no, could still prove to be a wild card?
This dawned on me a few weeks ago. We sat with Ron Rivera at the Super Bowl, and he said in no uncertain terms, Sam Howell is QB1. Now, he's since amended that to say it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the week 1 starter, but they made it clear a year after they called every single team to inquire into the availability of their starting quarterback. The starting quarterback of the Ravens is available. And I think that there's a chance, and once they hired Eric Bieniemy to be the offensive coordinator, I think there's a chance that Daniel Snyder, on his way out the door, if he's truly selling the team, and who the hell knows if he is, what better way than to bring a player that will make the fans say, wow, thanks, Dan. I mean, legitimately, they'll be happy with him as he's leaving. The next owner is the one that's got to pay the bill for this fully guaranteed 5-year contract, and he gives the middle finger to 345 Park Avenue and the other owners who don't want fully guaranteed contracts. I think it makes too much sense to not happen. So we'll see if Snyder does it. And again, he's got time, and unless and until someone else signs him to an offer sheet, the window's going to be open for Snyder to do it. Maybe we see how things go at the league meetings coming up later this month, and if he's unhappy with the aftermath of it, this is a way to act out a little bit and also to curry some favor with his fan base as he closes in on selling the team, if, again, he's going to be selling the team.
Yeah, I understand every element of it. It makes all the sense in the world. All right, father of mine, tell me about it.
Well, this is a product of the pandemic when I really didn't have much to do, so I was sitting around, and I decided that, I write so much every day that has like a one-day shelf life, if that long. I decided to write something a little longer form, and it's based in the town I grew up in, small town in northern West Virginia, where there was a pretty strong mob presence in the 70s, and I know that because my dad was a bookie working for the mob there. So I have some unique insight. No omerta was fractured in the writing of the book, so hopefully I won't get whacked for this one. But, I had a dream one night. It's funny where your ideas come from. I had a weird dream, and I thought about it for a day, and I started writing, and, yada, yada, yada. I got a book that's available $4.99 for pre-order. Anywhere you get your ebooks, it comes out April 25. And I hope people read it. I hope people will enjoy it. I specifically set the price point low to get people to check it out.
And again, it's pinned on his Twitter as well, at ProFootballTalk. It's the first tweet that you'll see there is a link for you to be able to go get Father of
What
Mine.
size concrete shoes do you wear?
Yeah.
Just in case.
I don't know. I'd rather be shot. I don't want to do the concrete shoes. I'd rather it happen quickly.
Have you ever uttered the sentence, the gravy's good tonight? Has that ever been said in your life?
No, but I have said, bring me the gabagool.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, I just got to ask you this, and you've probably been asked this a million times, but we haven't talked in so long. Did you ever in your wildest dreams, when you first hit the submit button on Pro Football Talk, and you were calling around to stations like ours 15 years ago trying to get on the radio to talk about this fledgling website, did you ever imagine this, ever?
I'll tell you, I always had an idea that if I could find a way to grow traffic, it would lead somewhere. I just had no idea where. And at least it didn't lead me to cement shoes yet. But, there's still time for that.
Well, it's really been wild.
A lot of common threads between the mob and the NFL. I'll just leave it at that.
No wonder you're so well connected.
Yeah, right?
Mike, it's been awesome, though, to see you, man. I mean, even on the Sunday nights when I watch it, I'm like, man, I remember those old days when he would call in and we would just talk football and you would say, please go to my website. So it's been awesome to watch you grow, man. It's cool.
Well, I appreciate it. And thanks to everyone who's come to the website, and thanks to everybody who orders Father of Mine. It's only $4.99. What can you buy for $4.99? I submit to you, not much. Other than that book.
Legitimately not even a cup of coffee.
No
Mike,
doubt.
appreciate you, brother. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys.
Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, with us here on GCR.
Sounds to me like he thinks there's collusion.
No,
That's
I didn't really get that sense.
like any good lawyer.
Where did that come from?
Like any good lawyer, he believes there's collusion.
We can talk about that a little bit on the other side. We will talk more. I guess the real question that I have when we talk on the other side, all of this being said, in some way, do you think the last 24 hours make it more likely that Lamar Jackson ends up being a Baltimore Raven when all is said and done? That's, to me, the other kind of part of this that I'm trying to figure out. So we'll cover all those things. Drew Forrester is here. PressBoxOnline.com/offers has all of the best sign-up offers and bonuses for sports betting, including 5 second-chance bets up to $50 each from PointBet, along with other great incentives and promos. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers right now. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at over $60,000 and over $64,000 for lateral officers, with $10,000 signing bonuses available. Plus, cadets start at over $32,000. Great benefits are available like medical, dental, and vision insurance, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days per calendar year with no limit, career advancement to more than 20 specialized units, and more, with further incentives for military service members and veterans. A passion for service, a career for life with the Baltimore County Police Department. Find out more at joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. Must be a United States citizen, have a valid driver's license, and a high school diploma or GED equivalent.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state, and Bo Smoka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Have you experienced hardship due to COVID-19 and want to start a new career path? Look no further than CCBC. Starting in March, CCBC offers short-term career training programs like real estate sales. And the best part, funding is available for those who qualify. Real estate sales is a lucrative career that can provide a stable income and flexibility. With CCBC's real estate sales program, you'll learn everything you need to know to get started in this exciting field. Call us at 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu to learn more. CCBC Real Estate Sales. Your new career starts now with funding available. 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Check out PressBoxOnline.com every day to find daily winners and betting advice from Jeremy Kahn. And if you want some advice about life decisions that you probably shouldn't make, here's Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR. Drew Forrester is here. It is a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of the program. Scenarios are up at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter, Facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. We will get into that in a bit. Will Brinson from CBS wrote about the Lamar Jackson situation. He'll join us at the top of the 11 a.m. hour. Obviously, that's what we're discussing today. Drew, I posed to you two questions. One, I know you had talked about this on Twitter last night. You, I think eternally as long as I've known you, have
You know he's from West Palm Beach, by the way, Jacoby Brissett.
You're going to do this. This is what we're going to do. We're going to just do a Jacoby
I had
Brissett
no idea.
thing. There you go. You got that.
I thought he was from California.
How about that? You always get very hinky whenever you hear the word collusion. You're never comfortable talking about it. I've known this about you forever. Take me through your feelings just about the word in general, collusion.
Well, I mean, I think from a professional sports standpoint, it's the worst thing you can do from an organizational aspect. In the same way that a player conspiring to change the outcome of the game, or to alter the outcome of the game, or to predetermine the outcome of the game is the worst thing a player can do. And I think when you talk about collusion from an ownership standpoint, they're trying to predetermine the outcome, right? That's what they're doing. I've said this before. I assume that my 7 years is over with. I was 1,000,000% involved in a league in the early 1990s that was involved in collusion. There was no question about it.
Okay.
I saw it. I was there. I was in the room. I've been there. So I'm not saying this to get a medal or a merit badge. I know exactly what it looks like because I have been there. And I have seen the door closed, and I have seen everybody's briefcase opened, and I have seen people say, this is what we're going to do. I have seen the board. I've seen the names of the players on the board that said, Drew, you're trading this guy to Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
In Kansas City, you're trading this guy to Baltimore. I didn't want to trade that guy. He got traded for me.
Right.
I've seen it.
It was WWE.
I mean, it was WWE in regards to the thing being
Right.
orchestrated.
You're saying the games were still legitimate.
I mean, yeah, right. I mean, I got a good player out of it, and he
Right.
came along and was okay.
Right.
But I've seen it. So I know from an organizational standpoint what it looks like. And in the same way, I think we've all seen funny, interesting things happen on the field, on the court, in the wherever, and you've looked at yourselves, you looked around the room, and you went, that looked kind of weird. Like, why'd that player do that? Like, we've all seen that, right? Or at least seen it enough. Yeah, right. Seen it enough to go, well, that looked kind of odd. So I get nervous when I see any of that stuff that doesn't have tangible evidence attached to it. And I think in this case, there isn't any tangible evidence. There is a lot of putting one and one together. There is a lot of guesswork. There is a lot of, isn't this odd? There is a lot of, well, that doesn't look very good. There is a lot of, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of all of that stuff. And in some cases, you might even say to these owners, this is where you use the offered play. You don't have to admit that you guys are colluding, but you probably should admit that it at least looks like you are.
Mm-hmm.
But even that said, if you're, and I'm not saying you, I'm saying if you're a person who's marching around yelling about collusion and yelling about these owners colluding formally, legally or illegally, it should be, colluding, you better have evidence for that. Real evidence. You can say whatever you want.
Right.
And you're welcome to say, I think they're colluding, but that doesn't mean anything.
Well, okay. And
to me.
That's fine.
To me.
And I really don't have a problem with the way that you
to
just
me.
said that because, for what it's worth, I don't think this is new.
I think we all know exactly what's happening.
I think they collude on a lot of things.
100%.
I think that they collude constantly.
100%.
Because it's better for everybody.
They collude on things like this. Ready? It just doesn't impact us.
Mm-hmm.
But they collude on things like this. And I'll make these names up. By no means do I know if this is true.
Right.
Baltimore, St. Louis, St. Louis isn't good. They're not in the league
Right,
anymore.
yes.
Baltimore, Detroit, Minnesota. I know you guys could have lucrative deals with bet points.
Right,
but you're not going to do that deal.
Right.
What do you mean we're not going to do that deal?
Yeah.
You're not going to do that deal. What you're going to do, though, is go back to bet points and tell them it's $750,000 for the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to MGM and say, well, these three teams need $750, so you're going to have to give them that.
Yep.
Like, these things happen all the time. All the time. And whether or not they trickle down, that one specifically doesn't impact us. But it could impact the Ravens when the league says –
potentially, yes.
Because Dallas went through this. If you remember 15 or 20 years ago, and I don't remember the client, but I think it was a soft drink. Dallas went through this. The league had a deal with Coke. Dallas, the Cowboys, made a deal with Pepsi, and the league said you can't do that. And the Cowboys said, of course we can do it. And the league said, no, you can't.
Right.
And all the owners froze him out. And all of a sudden, Jerry started serving Coke.
Yep.
Right? And so some of these things that impact the fans, some of them sort of kind of don't. But there are constantly tactics at the league level. And I think Mike made an interesting point about something. In today's world, fast forward to 2023, how many meetings, air quotes, how many meetings are there now in person, conferences in person now, versus how many were there in 2015? So just think about that for a minute, right? Without being accusatory, think about that.
Mm-hmm.
In 2015,
They got together once a year.
well, I'm talking about globally.
Okay.
I'm talking about in any industry, how many companies and organizations
Well,
and groups met in person in 2015?
Yeah. All of them.
Extraordinary.
Right. Yes, correct.
How many do it now?
Yes, it doesn't happen nearly as much because of the. Yes, I understand that.
Well, not only, I mean,
No, it's
some of it's COVID and some of it is.
But it's just how they've adjusted to life post.
Correct.
COVID.
Some of
Right.
it is we've finally figured it's just
Yes.
like renting buildings.
Correct.
We finally figured out we don't need all this space.
Right.
We don't need 4,500 square feet. We can do this with 2,500 square feet. We can save $2,000 a month, and we can let the employees go work at home.
Yep.
So we figured that out. Yet the owners now get together more
Yes.
than they ever did before.
Far more frequently. Correct.
So now their argument might be, and I'm going to be them for a minute as I try to deflect the accusations. Their argument might be, I have a private plane. Why don't I just use it? I don't have to go to the airport and wait around. I just get on my plane. I'll be in West Palm in 3 hours.
And I can be home for dinner.
Right.
Yes.
So that would be their argument. They'd navigate their way around all of this. But the point is, they get together an awful lot for a group of people who have very distinctly different lives.
It's a very fair point. Where
Right.
and someone,
They're not all in the widget business.
correct. Correct.
Where every January and July, the widget people get together,
Mhm.
and you know that. They're not in that business. They all have different things. They all live in different parts of the country. They all have different interests. And yet, oddly enough, every 4 months or so, they
figure
all
out a
jet
way.
into the same location
Yeah.
for a couple days.
And why do they need to do that? Why would they care to? They could, for example, all hop on a Zoom.
Correct.
They could,
But you can't do that.
but they wouldn't do that. Why would
Right.
they not do that?
Right.
Because
So now what I'm doing is the same thing everybody else does, but I'm going to end it by saying that's not evidence. But what they are doing is letting you in a little bit on the whole concept of how do you make this happen if, for example, you wanted Lamar to not get what Lamar should get. You would get together, you would close the doors, everybody would get frisked, like the basketball player from Alabama,
Mhm.
and we would
Oh,
then
God.
say,
Jesus.
hey, here are a couple topics for this meeting. One of them is Lamar. I can't imagine any of you want to give Lamar $250 million of guaranteed money, right?
Right. We wouldn't.
Right.
We're not going to do that,
Right?
are we? Yeah.
Guys, right?
Right.
We wouldn't do that to Steve, would we?
Mm-hmm. Well,
and
by the way, this was brought up to me by I think one of your buddies, Brian Jackson. It doesn't even have to be that the name Lamar specifically came up.
Oh,
it
not
could
at all.
Very easily be after this happened a year ago.
Sure.
That's when the meeting occurred,
100%.
and everybody looked around
Jimmy,
the room
what are
and
you
said,
doing?
well, none of us are going to do what he did.
Well, there's
correct?
I would say without the evidence, and
Right.
this is why this is all dangerous. But there's very little doubt someone somewhere during the season when Jimmy Haslam traveled with the team and went to Buffalo for a game.
Right.
There's very little doubt in the lounge while somebody was getting their glass of Chardonnay that one of the owners or somebody didn't say to Jimmy Haslam, "What on earth were you thinking about?" There's no question that.
Well, I
happened.
know that part happened.
I mean,
I'm
we know
saying
that,
was
right?
that the idea that there would be a follow up. But
So anyway, but I do think you, in the same way that you have to be very careful when a guy misses 4 3-pointers in a row at the end of the game, and you want to use the C word, not that one, the cheating word. You got to be very careful when you say collusion because you don't have any evidence to support it.
there are some C words I might say when a guy
Yeah,
misses
right,
4
right.
3-pointers.
Right.
When 3 Maryland players had the chance to grab 1 rebound at the end of the game,
No doubt.
There were a couple of C
No doubt.
words that came out of my
So
mouth. at
that's
that
all.
point.
That's all I do. I defend it because I have seen it and I have been there and I
So-
know what it really looks like.
So again, being careful in the way that I say it, of course I could never prove any of this, and I would never say that I know beyond of a shadow of doubt that something is happening. But to assume otherwise, to assume there's no way it could be happening to me would be
that's naive.
Would be extraordinary.
That's
would be
naive.
Would be unbelievable.
Particularly when you remember that this money has, and this is where, and I say this, we're all fans, so when I say it, I'm chastising you and I too, but like this is where fans go from knowing what they're talking about to having no idea what they're talking about. You got to put all this money away too. Remember that, right? So you can't just say, I'm going to give you $250 million, and you just trust me there, Glenn. It's going to come right to you, buddy. Don't you worry. And so you're talking about an extraordinary amount of money that has to be leveraged in some way by you and or your business, and you've got to be able to put that money away somewhere. Now you got to go to a bank, and the bank really puts it away. You don't put it away, but the bank puts it away. You leverage yourself with the bank, and the bank says, no problem, we'll cover you, and we'll put the money in there, and it'll just appear. It'll look like the money's in there. The money isn't really in there, but the money is in there. You owe it. We're gonna tell your people there's $250 million in Bank of America. There isn't really $250 million, but you're on the hook for it.
Correct.
So
correct.
And so I think people forget that.
As much as I hear you saying that, one, the owners decided upon that rule for whatever reason. It's archaic.
Bizarre.
And it's something that they did to themselves.
Well, but the players would want it too. I mean, if you're the agent of the player,
yes, you don't want there to be a world where an owner could somehow later in the day in the process say, well, I'm broke now. Sorry, you're out. But,
sure.
But the NFL would never allow for that to happen anyway, right? Like it's like baseball dealing with these TV contracts, right? Like the teams are all going to get their money but Bally Sports going under.
We're just going to pay for it.
Correct.
The fans are just going to pay
for it.
Because they're going to start charging us $30 a month to watch
exactly the way
games.
This is going to go.
Right.
You understand.
If you think we're not paying for it, you're insane.
It's going to be taken care of. By the way,
and when they sign Lamar, by the way, next week the ticket prices are going up.
Well, the ticket invoice is already out. By the way, that is I have been fascinated by how many people, and I don't know, like I am sure that there'll be plenty of people that no matter how this plays out are going to end up saying, fine, whatever, here's my money. But the number of people that are talking about how they haven't sent their invoice form back in yet for their season tickets because they want this answer first is wild to me. It is all over social media how many people are talking about, I've been sitting with this invoice form. I guess it's due on March 15th, so it's due a week from today when the new league year begins. It is wild to me, the timing of that in all of this. It's much like the bluster after the London thing. I think there's a lot of people that say things versus a lot of people that actually do things. I think that there's a very small group of people that actually follows up on something like this. But it is interesting timing. And I could absolutely see a human being sitting there saying, dude, I would kind of like to know, for example, if I'm giving you money to watch Lamar Jackson play football or if I'm giving you money to watch Jacoby Brissett play football next season. Because, truth be told, I'm not really interested in the latter. I'd kind of pass on that scenario if this is how this is going to go. So it's an interesting timing for all of that.
I would agree. I mean, I do. I think that I don't remember. I mean, I remember people didn't go, but I don't remember the numbers of how many people didn't go. I think I remember a Bears home game that was bare. I think, there were 20,000, 15,000 people that didn't go or something like that. I don't remember. I remember people didn't go after the London thing, 100%. I remember sitting in the stadium, and I won't say who it was, but I remember sitting in the stadium. I took a group of 28 people, and I had a vice president of banking on my trip with me, a current then vice president of banking who was a significant sponsor of the football team, sitting right next to me, saying, I just texted Steve Bisciotti. Showed me his phone. Said, I just texted Steve Bisciotti and said, lock our suite up, give us our money back. Like, I remember that, right? I think you're going to see that something similar with this. You might see it more with the fans because I think the
entertainment
sponsors,
value of the right. Correct.
The sponsors are there far more because it's an event 8 or 9 times a year that they use to help facilitate
They
the
want
business.
to take clients.
I think you're going to. I do think if something weird happened today, it wouldn't happen this quickly. So this is pie in the sky. But if something happens in the next week and Lamar goes to the Raiders, I think there's major pushback on that. Now, what's that mean? Is it 7,000 people don't renew their season tickets? Is it 2? Is it 20? I have no idea of knowing. But I think it's relevant. I think people are going to – I think if Lamar's not the quarterback,
Well, and you can't
it's
get a
Ryan Tannehill.
Right.
I think people are going to go,
yeah, man.
dude, I don't know if I'm doing this.
Right.
And here's the thing, and this is the dirty little secret no one really
Let me squeeze this in real quick. Today's show is also brought to you by the print issue of Press Box, which is available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. There's Gunnar Henderson on the cover. Go ahead.
I just want to say, I think what's an interesting, tentacle to this is even with Lamar, people are starting to not go to the games.
Oh, yes, correct. There's no there's no question about that.
So I mean, they're already not selling. This is the dirty little secret.
Right.
They're already not selling games out, and they have Lamar.
Right.
And they have a good team. And the times have changed. Whether or not that's post-COVID, whether or not that's the ticket prices are too much, whether or not that's stay at home and watch the red zone. This is pizza. There's 16 slices to it.
Of course.
So people are already not going, and they have Lamar. What's going to happen if they don't have him?
I mean,
so I do.
Obviously, it would depend on who it would be, of course. Like, I do think if they drafted a first-round quarterback and that guy was playing, there would be an amount of excitement surrounding that and figuring out who the next quarterback is going to be. But to your point, if it was, some podunk,
right,
middle-of-the-road, stopgap quarterback, then no, there would be.
And it does, and I do. We all know this, right? They could let Lamar go tomorrow. And people could be disgruntled, and people could post stuff on Twitter, and people could post stuff on Facebook, and I'm not going.
Yes, but
and
if they're 8-0 next season,
8-1 after 9 games, people are going.
Correct. That's a fact.
We'll call your bluff on that
yes,
one. But I think initially, I would say that if they don't sign him,
there would be a significant.
I would agree,
particularly if it's over 2 first-round picks, right? Particularly if it looks like you didn't even
beat. Right.
Correct.
Yeah,
that ends up being in the aftermath of all this stuff with Steve Saunders and
like
in a weird way, this has been the best wag the dog for them they could have ever imagined.
Yeah,
right.
It quickly got rid of that fiasco from last week.
100%. We all stopped talking about it the moment, and that was about as ugly as we'd ever seen a group of current or former players push back on the team. The way that unfolded last week. This is a franchise they haven't dealt with that. They've not been Washington. This hasn't been their problem. Bernard Pollard fought with John Harbaugh. But
Bernard Pollard's a goof.
But he never even fought with the Ravens. It was never he would even tell you he loved the Ravens. Right. He just fought with John. We've never seen an organization
trash the organization.
Correct.
Right. We've never seen players.
Yes.
Now again, as I wrote last week, I don't even know who Carl Davis is. I couldn't care less. Well, okay, so they mistreated your knee? Maybe. I don't even know.
Yeah, but Rashad Bateman's pretty significant.
Right. And that was I think that was a reaction. Well, all of it was an overreaction to me, but I think that was a reaction more to what he perceived to be a slight at him.
Right.
And I think Eric, if Eric had it to do over again, Eric would have prefaced that by saying, we have some talented receivers.
Mm-hmm.
We need more talented receivers.
Probably.
Eric would have done better by saying it that way.
Yes.
What he said made it sound like
all of our receivers we've ever drafted have stunk. Right. Correct. And that set him off.
But again, players
But he didn't stop there, right?
Right. No doubt. And players do this too all the time, right? You could say this about everybody. I mean, you can say it about Lamar too, but it's not as much about Lamar because Lamar, for the most part, obviously the last couple of years have been more even, but Lamar, for the most part, has fulfilled all of the promise that he had. But players do this all the time. They always think they're better than they are. Always.
Sure.
They just do.
Sure.
It's the nature of being an athlete at a high level. You think you're better.
Some guy once told us he was the best quarterback in football. What did that guy ever do?
Correct.
Yeah.
You always think you're better than you are, right? And so sometimes you forget, and this is where, in Lamar's case, this is where an agent would have helped him, I think. And in Bateman's case, Bateman might forget you've been here and you haven't done anything yet. Like, we drafted you, and all you've been really is hurt. You caught a couple nice passes last year. You had a really nice catch and run against the Dolphins, and there have been times when you look like the number 1 draft pick. There are also times when you look like a guy that we have zero confidence in,
right,
as it relates to your availability to play. Not about you as a player.
I still think more than not that you look at Rashad Bateman as more a part of the solution than a part of the problem.
No question. But I'm saying this is not about – we're not questioning the performer. When you perform, we're fine. We're questioning the performance, because sometimes you don't play.
But his response back is, it's weird. When I was in college, I was never hurt.
Right. And so,
all
and
of a sudden I got here with your guy,
right,
and I've been hurt twice. What do you think that says?
And I would say that what I think it says is you came down on your foot wrong in that game. That's what I would say.
Well, but he would
say,
what about the groin injury that I didn't need to suffer because everyone says you're pushing everyone far too hard to begin the season. And by the way, I do think there's a far bigger problem here, which is there's a messenger versus message issue. I've talked to enough people that actually know what they're talking about in this field that it can't be hidden. The Ravens were wildly wrong in how they were going about handling.
They were negligent.
Negligent.
I think that's the word. I think that's a dangerous word, but legally.
Right.
But they were probably negligent, and I would say there have probably been, and we don't know what they are, there have probably been grievances filed against them for mistreatment of injuries.
That's one thing. The second problem becomes exactly where does John Harbaugh come down on this? Because if it was John Harbaugh just being unwilling to deal with a rogue employee because of a personal relationship, that's problematic. But what would be more problematic is that all it really was somebody giving John Harbaugh's message in the strength room. And that the next guy that
rub some dirt on it.
Correct. Like, the bigger problem is if nothing changes with Steve Saunders gone, if Scott Elliott's job is to still just give John Harbaugh's message. And I haven't gotten a full answer as to which of those two scenarios is more likely. John Harbaugh's track record with, trying to skirt the rules with a number of practices, he's very old school in the way that he thinks things need to be done.
3 a days.
Yes, correct. So there's a real issue that's there. It's obviously not the topic du jour, but there's a real issue that exists that the Ravens have to figure out. And at some point, it has to involve Steve Bisciotti. There's no one else that John Harbaugh's answering to.
See, one of the things about the players that now has really, I don't know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but it seems more prevalent in the last 5 years. One of the biggest things is these players are speaking for themselves in a forum that is very limited. So Bateman, and he's an example, a prime example of this. Bateman fires that thing off in no way am I disparaging him when I say this. He fires that thing off in an abrupt manner that's not punctuated correctly, that doesn't have all the words spelled the right way, that has words that that a lot of people don't even understand what they mean because it's in his vernacular, right? And we don't know what those words mean. So we read it, and we just see it as some guy spouting off who's disgruntled, when in fact he might have a very relevant message.
Oh.
And this is where the agent element of it or the mentor element of it really would be helping these guys. And I know Bateman has one, but in other words, somebody to help them when they do have something public they want to say. Hey, let me help you. Let me guide you through this a little bit.
I think the fear would be the agent would say, just don't, right? Just
more than likely,
just don't.
And by the way,
there's an argument
that
for
might be the right thing to do.
But I do also.
But if you have a problem, by the way, Rashad, you have a problem with the Ravens,
right?
Do you have a problem with the Ravens? I'll take care of it for you.
Right.
You, me, and Eric are going to get on the phone right now, and we're going to do this the right way. You have a problem, let's address it, right? And I think you're and we saw this with Eric's comments, right? Eric, I don't know if he got backed into the corner when he said that. I don't know how that all transpired. But the same thing goes for the teams. The teams are very, very apprehensive to say anything publicly, right? Which is why they create their own. This is a big argument about media these days, right? The teams used to give that stuff to me or you or the reporters, and they would say, hey, well, I can remember Brian Billick specifically saying, you want to know why Chris McAllister didn't play? I'll tell you why. But if you say I told you, I remember Brian saying, I know right where Brian was when he said this to me. If you say on the air, I'll tell you why McAllister didn't play. You ready? Here it is. But if you say on the air, I told you, I'll never give you another piece of information in your life. But I want you to look good, and I also want to look good. Right? They don't do that anymore. The teams release it. Well, the teams are only releasing what they want to give you.
Correct. They've crafted it the same exact way. So, and I can understand the frustration of a player. This is the problem that I have is that it's clear this has been bubbling for what you saw unfold last week.
A year or two
has been bubbling for some time. It started with Derek Wolfe, right? And we all kind of said, all right, it's one guy. It's Derek Wolfe. He's kind of nuts, right? Let's take him with a grain of
started more
salt.
with the COVID thing.
Well, that was the first time.
You know, I got COVID, but I'm coming to train you boys because we got a football game to win.
Correct. And that's, again, goes back to why I can't absolve John Harbaugh of blame in any of
sure.
this. There's no scenario where John Harbaugh can just sort of shrug his shoulders. You were on board. You were in lockstep with this entire process. Hey, baseball betting is here. Bet $5 with DraftKings and get $200 in instant bonus bets, along with other great incentives and promos when you sign up at PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Baseball futures bets, season specials, and player award bets are already live in Maryland. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers now for your shot at winning.
I'm betting on the Phillies.
Okay, it's your
Phillies going to win the World Series.
Right,
I hate to say that, obviously. That drives me insane.
Oh yeah, you're right. I always forget your heart.
But I think it's the Phillies year.
That. All right, let's get back into the topic du jour. Obviously, Lamar Jackson situation. This man certainly is hinting around the same thing you and I were just talking about. As you can read right now at CBSSports.com, he is NFL writer Will Brinson, and he's back with us here on GCR. Will, it's Glenn Clark and Drew Forrester here in Baltimore. Always great to catch up. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Yeah, no problem. Although, I mean, I don't as a Braves fan, I don't appreciate the Phillies chatter.
I wish the Orioles could be more like the Braves and start signing some of these guys and keeping them around long term. That's a conversation.
I know, right? I know. Yeah. No, the Phillies landing Trey Turner this offseason. I'm an NC State guy, and Trey Turner to the Phillies is basically my hellscape, so that's exciting.
Oh, good. We got that going for us. Will, let me dive into this a little bit if I could. Before we get to collusion, I want to get your answer on this question that I've kind of posed a couple times. Teams are always lying, like to the point where I've kind of quietly done it. I've refused to go to Ravens press conferences in recent years. The turning point for me was the day that Steve Bisciotti, for whatever reason, decided to say that we don't need a quarterback right before they drafted Lamar Jackson. And I'm not mad at him. He was playing poker. I understand it. I just have no interest in being a part of their poker game, right? Like, it doesn't do anything for me. I'll do everything privately now. Teams constantly lie. It's all they do, and they certainly don't want to be viewed as having lost out on someone, if they don't need to. All of these teams are going to say to themselves, if we're not going to get this guy, we don't want people to think that we lost out on him, because then they're going to frame, Will Brinson's going to write at CBSSports.com, the Carolina Panthers lost out on Lamar Jackson this offseason, and we don't want that. That's not good for us. How much do you believe everything that happened in the last 24 hours and all of these teams allegedly being completely out on Lamar Jackson?
Well, I think that it's, the Ravens put the non-exclusive franchise tag on Lamar Jackson at 3:02 p.m. That's when they sent out the tweet that's announcing it. We don't. I guess they go back. It wouldn't be official until the actual transaction wire goes through, of course. Between 4 and 4:30. But it's not like, to me, it doesn't come across. And I agree with you. Like, of course, NFL teams lie all the time. Like, you have to. If you do this long enough, you have to know when to be able to sniff out what is a lie, what is a valid. Like, for instance, all right, this is a good example. Chicago Bears. Bears are the number one overall pick. Everybody goes to the combine, and coming out of the combine, the Bears are the feature story in both Albert Breer and Peter King's Monday morning column. They're featured in like our Jonathan Jones's insider notes. They are the story du jour before Lamar Jackson's franchise tag, and it's like Ryan Poles can't stop talking about all the offers he's got. He's like, I am just loaded with offers. He's like, you won't believe it. He's like, I got a 2024 one and a 2025 one sitting out there right now. It's like, no, you don't. If you did, you take that. That's just, you don't have that. And so, like, I think it's like that to me is like a very clear thou dost protest too much situation where there's so much press that it's that's obvious. And yeah, look, could one of these teams be completely full of it and they're trying to go in lockstep and then they're going to reverse course and try to sign Lamar? Sure. Could it be one of those things where they don't want to negotiate with the Ravens, and if they do negotiate and then the Ravens take him and they lose, so you don't even want to dive in? Yeah, it could be a little bit of that. But the timing of this, the quickness and the way in which these teams got this information out there. The Diana Rossini of ESPN had had something from the Falcons. Like, the Falcons just aren't going to pursue Lamar by 3:16. That's 14 minutes. You can't even. You can't there's a lot of stuff you can't do in the kitchen in 14 minutes.
It's fair. That's fair. How did you possibly have enough time to make that decision and to really process all of this, particularly knowing? With that,
unless you had that in your hip pocket for 2 days for whatever weird reason, right? Like, I agree with that. It sounds kind of weird. We just got the tweet 12 minutes ago, and you're
Right,
out already? That's
right.
kind of odd.
You've gone through
But-
all of this in 12 minutes,
All right.
every layer of it. And I
Well,
guess,
yeah, I mean, like they could have, the Falcons could have said, all right, if they placed a non-exclusive franchise tag on him, do we want to possibly, do we want to consider it? I mean, yeah, they could have spent, they could have heard rumblings it was going to happen at the combine. I mean, obviously, people, everybody gets together. I highly doubt that, Eric DaCosta was just letting everybody know the non-exclusive franchise tag was coming. I mean, I thought that was going to be the plan all along, because you let Lamar test his market, and look, you let the market tell Lamar what he's going to get. It's just like, I mean, that's a pretty fast way to make a decision for a team that was very much in on Deshaun Watson until the very end of the Watson sweepstakes. So, it's like you spend months and months and months chasing after Deshaun Watson. You won't spend a quarter of an hour like considering chasing after Lamar Jackson. That seems odd to me.
Yeah, Desmond Ridder is not that good.
yeah, well, he might not be good at all.
So
Yeah.
I guess the one thing I asked, we had a guest earlier, I asked the same thing. This question keeps pressing to me. Is there any chance this is irreparable, and that the Ravens and Lamar just forget about the money, that even if they sort of kind of figured out a way to agree to the deal, that the hard feelings would not allow for both of them to coexist?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, it does seem like it certainly seems closer to that than I think anyone would have thought during the first 12 weeks of the season last year, and obviously down the stretch you started to hear more and more rumbling, or whether it's rumblings or grumblings, whatever you want to call it, sort of started to propagate up a little bit and bubble up to the surface, and then this off season you do hear that and look again. Is your point about what do we believe from NFL teams? I mean, when you start to hear it's like, oh, like you never hear so and so's a bad teammate when during an MVP season, right? You only hear that so and so's a bad teammate, so and so's a pain in the butt, so and so's a problem here, so and so's a problem there. You only hear that when there's a contract negotiation going on. I mean, I feel like the Saints did that with Drew Brees, where it's like, we're just not sure how much time. Like, you get a leak, it's like some of the Saints are worried about how much time Drew Brees has left. Like in 2011 or something, when he got a franchise tag, or 2013, whatever it was. And so, like, that to me is where you have to be really careful about what we're quote unquote what we're hearing, because this is lying season more so than during the regular season, and then like two, teams are cutthroat. They're willing to do whatever they need to do in order to try and get that negotiation down. And so, yeah, I mean, part of that may be that like Lamar feels slighted, and part of it may be like the Ravens feel like Lamar slighted them, and it's just too hard to come back from. I mean, that's what makes it. To me, it seems likely that he just plays two franchise tags and then tries to hit the open market rather than they actually get a deal done.
But then the question becomes, is he going to be okay with a 30? This to me, Will, is where Will Brinson from CBS Sports is with us here on GCR. This gets really fascinating to me, because the question becomes, like, how much of this has now gotten to the point where Lamar really believes in a fight, that he has been, working with the NFLPA, and he's in on, hey, the franchise tag is evil, and we should be getting fully guaranteed contracts. And, I've never thought of, Lamar Jackson as like a Colin Kaepernick type figure. He's never come off in a way that he had bigger goals or things that were beyond football that he cared about, that he wanted to make an impact, or he wanted to be football's version of Kurt Flood or something like that. But it is fascinating to me, right? Like, what if he were to walk in and say, dude, but I ain't playing for $32.4 million. Forget about it. That's not happening. And I am willing to sit out, and I am willing to fight this fight and to, try to become a martyr in the process. Like, because we have so little access to Lamar Jackson without having an agent, somebody to speak for him, there is a really fascinating element of all of this beyond just, hey, what are teams willing to offer? Like, what is it? What are Lamar's actual goals in this? And what is he? Is there a point where he says, well, I just need to save face and get whatever I can get? Or does he say, nah, the hell with this, I'm fighting this?
Well, and I think, it's hard to say. Again, you're right, because he doesn't have an agent. I think if he had an agent, he'd have a deal done, because agents want to get their cut of the contract, and agents are, if you're an agent who doesn't get a contract done, you look like, one, you don't get your money, and two, nobody wants to be your client, because,
Right.
You can't, like, this guy can't get deals done. Why would I be with this guy? So, yeah, an agent, if he has an agent, he probably has a deal done by now, and It's probably it's propped up in the way that all these deals get propped up, right? The most new guaranteed money in the history of quarterback, blah blah blah. As far like, I think the non-exclusive part of this is kind of a huge deal for the relationship too, because you have Lamar. Like not only is it the franchise tag, the analogies is always it's like here's this is it's like a promise ring versus an actual engagement ring, right? It's like you're dating, you don't want to marry. Like that's what we always comp it to. Well, I mean the Ravens just said not only do we not want to lock you down, but we're willing to let any team in the NFL come and try and get you.
Yeah, we'll let you go look at another guy.
Yeah, it's kind of insulting when you think about it.
Right. No. I mean, I think that's an interesting comparison. Like, we're not only not sure we want you, we'll let you run around and see if there's another guy in town that thinks you're pretty.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. You think you're like, look, I'll tell you what. You think you want to lock this? You want to get hitched? Why don't you go?
Right.
I don't know if you guys watch 30 Rock. It's like when Jenna goes and has a sexual walkabout. Like that's what they're basically telling Lamar he can go have a walkabout and figure out. Like, go flirt with all the other 31 teams. See what they think. And that's kind of insulting if you're the player, right? It's like you're like being told, maybe you're not as hot as you think you are.
Well,
basically.
That's the genesis of it, really, right? I mean, the Ravens. There's a value. I keep using these letters. Lamar thinks his value is 4A, and the Ravens think it's 3A, and the Ravens are saying to him, go find a team that thinks it's 4A, and if you do, then maybe we'll consider it. And if you don't, you lose. I mean, that's the way the Ravens position it to me.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. Like, I mean, just to sort of, not to segue into the C word, but because I think it is important to note that, like, if you're Eric DeCosta, you could have done some pretty basic calculus here, where you can rip through X number of teams in the NFL, right? So, for instance, like the Browns and the Bengals and the Steelers are not going to offer Lamar Jackson. And they're not going to give an offer sheet, right? I mean, you're talking about they just drafted Deshaun Watson, they have Joe Burrow, and they just traded for Deshaun Watson, they have Joe Burrow, and then they just drafted Kenny Pickett, respectively. Like none of those three teams in the division are going to try and come and get Lamar, even especially giving up 2 first-round picks. You can run through a whole list of other teams, and you can sort of get down to this list of maybe 6 or 7 teams who might be interested in coming after Lamar Jackson. Like David Tepper has been a rabid bulldog about trying to find a quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. He tried to trade for everybody, and when he couldn't get any of the big names, he traded for both Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. He gave up they gave up much for Baker, but gave up a 2nd-round pick for Sam Darnold. Like you give up a 2 for Darnold, but you won't give up 2 1s for Lamar.
Right.
Yeah, and he has all the liquidity in the world to go get him. And so, like, you do wonder, like, that's sort of the game of chicken that DeCosta is playing here and the Ravens are playing here, is they're saying, all right, this is a list of teams that could come get Lamar. And then again, this goes back to sort of my collusion theory, or the collusion theory. It's not my collusion theory. It's just like all of these teams who would be interested or potentially interested come out and say, no, they leak to reporters very quickly. No, we're not interested. Without really even the amount of time you needed to do your due diligence. And if you started looking at it, every single NFL owner was, except obviously the Packers and the Browns, because they were mad at the Browns and the Packers Republic, were furious at the Haslams for the contract that they gave to Deshaun Watson. It set things up, especially with Lamar, and Lamar not having an agent to tell him that was. And everybody's been told this is an outlier, right? Deshaun Watson's contract's an outlier. It's an outlier. It's like, well, it's not. It's what the market said a quarterback is worth. Even if the market is full of idiots, the market still said that. And now NFL owners want to make sure, because a lot of them aren't liquid enough, they put down $230, $250, $280 million in cash into escrow over 5 years, because it's the antiquated rule where you have to have that money in escrow for every guaranteed dollar in a contract. And so you have Joe Burrow coming up. You have Justin Herbert coming up. I mean, those are franchises that are flush with cash like that. And so I think there's a whole host of NFL owners who are saying, look, this Lamar contract is, I'm just saying it's the perfect time. If you were gonna try and snuff out this guaranteed contract situation, this Lamar Jackson contract is the perfect time, because if you get him on the non-exclusive tag, and no one comes in and makes him a fully guaranteed offer, so you have those other 5 teams who all walk away very quickly. And then the Ravens say, look, we told you this is what the market says your value is. This is what we said your value is. So Lamar either then has to play out the 2 franchise tags and see what he can in free agency, or he can take the deal that the Ravens were offering him. And either way, by the time that he signs by the time that he either signs a contract for that's not guaranteed, or by the time he hits the market, we're going to see Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow sign contracts that aren't guaranteed or fully guaranteed because they have agents who are going to figure out ways to get these deals done, and it's going to reset the market. So, like, this is the absolutely perfect time and perfect moment and perfect player because of various reasons for the NFL owners to say, all right, we're squashing out this fully guaranteed market.
We're in for the fight.
Smells to me like Robert Kraft is sitting in New England going, okay, I'm one step closer to having Lamar.
Oh, God, the terrifying thought of that. It's so terrifying.
You know he's up there going,
yep.
I don't want anybody to pay this guy one nickel more than $200 million.
We're all in on that, right?
Hey, Belichick could have drafted him instead of Sonny Michel, man.
I mean, it's so terrifying. At Will Brinson on Twitter is how you follow him. And we'll link up his story from CBS Sports on our Twitter account at Glenn Clark Radio. Will, a podcast, what can we plug for you, man?
Pick Six Podcast, daily NFL show on YouTube, youtube.com/Pick Six, or Pick Six, or also CBS Sports HQ and Twitter and all that good stuff, and CBSSports.com, of course.
We'll really appreciate it, man. Thanks for doing this. We'll be in touch, all right?
Yeah, guys, have a good day. See you.
Will
Bye.
Brinson, CBS Sports, with us here on GCR. When we come back in, we're going to play Would You Rather Wednesday, and still to come this hour, Peter King will join us from NBC. So
Peter?
He did say...
Not with me?
Yeah, he specifically said...
Fracas he and I
had. Got to know that Forrester's not going to be around there for that one. So
you're no king to me anyway.
Wow. That's what you prepared for today? How long did you spend working on that one? God, I got one for you. When did you do back in Boys Town?
Yeah, right. There you go.
All right. That's still all to come. It is a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part? Their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Have you experienced hardship due to COVID-19? CCBC is here to help. With funding available for short-term career programs, you can get back on your feet in no time. Starting this March, become a certified apartment maintenance technician to secure your future. CCBC's program offers hands-on training and prepares you for a rewarding career in the growing field of property management. Don't wait any longer. Call 443-840-2222 or online at ccbcmd.edu for more details. CCBC Apartment Maintenance Technician. Your new career starts now with funding available. 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state, and Bo Smoka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at over $60,000 and over $64,000 for lateral officers, with $10,000 signing bonuses available. Plus, cadets start at over $32,000. Great benefits are available like medical, dental, and vision insurance, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days per calendar year with no limit, career advancement to more than 20 specialized units, and more, with further incentives for military service members and veterans. A passion for service, a career for life with the Baltimore County Police Department. Find out more at joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. Must be a United States citizen, have a valid driver's license, and a high school diploma or GED equivalent.
If you miss anything on the show, don't forget that you can watch full episodes at youtube.com/pressboxonline, and you can download podcasts on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and Grindr. Wait, did I say Grindr? I don't think that you would find it on Grindr. Not that I know it's on Grindr or anything, I swear. On second thought, you know what? I don't care what you think. Here's Glenn.
If you missed it, Stan the Fan Charles Ross Grimsley caught up with Mike Devereaux after his stint down in spring training as an instructor. You can find that show right now, facebook.com/PressBoxSports, youtube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video.
I hate to be that guy.
Yeah.
It's Devereaux.
I don't believe it is, for the record.
Didn't you see Ted Lasso?
We're doing.
Remember?
God, I always forget that. That's all Drew has.
That's all I
at
watch.
This point. 1 week
Don't
from
you
today,
remember?
right?
Yeah, right. Yep.
It's next Wednesday, isn't
Yep.
it? That means I got to sign back up for Apple TV Plus.
Devereaux.
I got to make sure I get that
That's how
back
you
by
say
next
it,
Wednesday.
French,
All right,
Devereaux.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Just let you know.
Thank you.
And now it's the last one.
Yes, this is it. This is it.
Ted said this is it.
This is it. In fairness, I think it's smart. It captures a moment. It's very difficult to keep doing this for 10
Ask
seasons.
The Hangover.
The
The Hangover, number one, brilliant. Hangover number two,
well, it was wretched.
good. Hangover number three, horrendous.
Yes. What I would say is it's difficult even for likable characters. You just sort of like,
sure.
At some point you're like, okay, it's the same thing. Like we like you, we get it. You're the nice guy, but it's the same thing.
Right.
Like there's not depth.
Not everybody can be Leave It to Beaver. Not everybody,
or Mr. Rogers.
Not everybody can be Eddie Haskell.
Yeah, it's true. Eddie
Haskell
Haskell, 100%. Never soured. Never soured in any way. All right, Drew's here. Drew'sMorningDish.com. Of course,
I am going with Scotty Scheffler to win, by the way.
You'll be talking about that on Fairways and Greens, which is back.
I'm not sure.
Oh?
Isn't there some issue with Sunday?
I think it's only if Maryland ends up in the Big Ten championship game, and I don't think that's
Oh, okay.
likely.
Is that what it is? And I need to know that. If Maryland winds up in the Big Ten championship game, then I don't do a golf show.
I'm pretty sure you're locked in no matter what, because I don't think the Big Ten championship game would be until mid-afternoon. So I think you're good on Sunday.
That's not what Chuck told me.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe there's something else.
Maybe they found something else to do the golf show.
Yeah, then maybe we're off on Sunday. They should probably let me.
Well,
I got a schedule that said I was working on Sunday.
I said that I said we should do I should do the golf show after the players.
Oh, try to do like a
when
post
are you
game.
on?
We're
1
on
to 4?
1 to 4, yes.
It would be perfect for me to do the golf show 4 to 6 or 5 to or 4 to 5.
I thought the golf tournament doesn't end until like 6.
It ends at like 6, but I mean I would be on while they were playing the back 9.
Okay.
That would be awesome.
Okay.
And it would be way better than your show.
Yeah,
I mean,
great
that's not what I meant
great
to
point.
say.
Well, you might not be wrong. The problem would be, I think, at that point, if Maryland was in the Big Ten championship game. I think the Big Ten championship game is at 3:30, if I remember correctly.
Well, Maryland will be watching
Yes,
that.
I don't think that's likely. I am with you on that.
They got a puncher's chance. The Big Ten's not any good.
By the way, what you just said is exactly right.
The Big Ten is
it's
alarming how bad
I
the
don't
Big
feel
Ten
good
is.
about Maryland, but I don't feel good about any of these teams.
Pick the winner right now, and you're wrong.
Exactly
I'm
right.
serious.
Exactly
like you tell me who's in the final right now,
Purdue
you're wrong.
is deservedly the favorite, but yes, even they have proven to be quite beatable. Everyone else is exactly the same outside of Minnesota. There's Purdue, there's Minnesota, and then there's...
And Minnesota just beat Rutgers.
That's true. They did just do that. And there used to be Minnesota and Ohio State, but then Ohio State won a few games at the end of the year, too. So even they, there's just no answer.
The Big Ten is just not
There's
very good.
no correct answer to that question.
What a bummer the other night for Towson.
Rough. Real rough.
I mean, they had 4 unbelievable looks in the last 45 seconds. Didn't hit one of them.
I thought they were settling for long threes instead. I thought Cam Holding going to the basket was working for them, and they were settling for come hell or high water, we're letting Timberlake take a 3, even if he's 30 feet away from the basket.
Well, everyone knew he
By
was
the way, Griffin's going war. He was retweeting people that want accountability within the program. Griffin's lost his mind.
I'm ready for Turgeon.
Accountability, you mean?
Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, right. You want them to lose for
out
sure.
Of your mind?
You mean accountability because people are upset they didn't make it again? You mean that?
Yeah.
That they haven't been in 31 years or
correct.
whatever it is. 31 years?
Yes.
21 years.
Yeah, no, it's 32 in fact. 32
91
years.
was the last time
yes,
they were there.
Exactly right.
Look, I get it. I mean, they've had some good teams that they came up short the 1 year in D.C. or came up short 1 year in Baltimore when I think
the Jarrell Benjamin year was
William Mary
beat
them, right?
Was very disappointing.
And
I would say last year was way more disappointing than this year. Last year's team was the best team in the CAA. Last year's team was rolling. Last year's team was.
But they weren't the number 1 seed last year. I don't.
They were the number 1 seed they won the regular season.
Last year they
remember
were
they had to
the
play
seed?
that. They had to make up the second half of the game with Delaware,
right?
And had to come back. And when they did that, they won the CAA title because of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't remember they were the number 1 seed and lost.
They lost to Delaware.
Yes.
Right. They lost turnaround and lost to Delaware.
Gotcha.
That
one escaped me.
Stunned in the.
But yeah, I mean, I get it. Like this is you're judged on this. No matter what conference you're in, you're judged on. We haven't been there in 31 years. I mean, you
Correct.
think about it.
Yeah, it's that. Yes,
you got to get in by accident one year, right?
Now, for a little while,
Coppin State finished 7-9 1 year and got in.
That is true, but the CAA for a while was a bit different than other mid-major leagues because they had real teams playing in the CAA for a bit. George Mason was there. I mean, it was tough.
Well,
to
they
break
had
through.
Old Dominion, George Mason,
VCU. Yes, I mean, it
mean,
was loaded for a little while there. So the totality of the 31
Old Dominion
years
got in 1 year and didn't even win the conference.
Correct.
Old Dominion got it. They gave two spots
to
1
the
year.
CAA. Exactly right. Now I get it. There have been a couple of this year to me. They lost Jason Gibson and Charleston's a monster. Like I don't. Let's just be practical about it. This year wasn't the year.
Right.
Last year you can say was the year. If there is a disappointing year, it's last season everything was going their way. They couldn't lose in the second half of last season, and that was particularly disappointing. But to fire a coach of a program that's steadily been in the mix, that has proven that
they're in it every year. I mean I would have to look back on this. It's been a long time since they've had a stinker year.
Correct.
The COVID year was really, really bad.
But it was
they had really bad losses down the stretch to Drexel and William and Mary at the end of the regular season, which was really bad losses because they were up late and then ended up blowing it and losing.
We're talking about what year? COVID year?
This year.
Oh,
in
this
February.
Year.
This past February.
You mean on the road, though, you're talking about?
Yeah, they were on the road.
Okay.
I don't know how to tell you this. Like, teams don't win every game. Charleston didn't
you're
win
one
every
of the people
game.
that wants Skerry out? You want him fired?
Yeah, I'd be okay with that, yeah.
You're insane.
I don't know how to. But the other thing too is that it's very difficult to explain the context. I also remember being young.
They
and
just
sort
lost
of
to a team that's 31-3, and they lost to them in the last 30 seconds of the game.
Right when they couldn't get a foul call in the second half of the game, when everything was going against them. But that's probably Pat Skerry's fault, right? Like
they're up the whole game and can't hold on.
They're not up the whole game.
They were down by. What are you talking about?
They were down by 9 points.
They were up by 5 at halftime.
They were down by 9 points with 7 minutes to go in the game. And
What
they
game
came
are
back
you?
to take the lead.
So that's the lead they blew out coming out of halftime.
They had a 5-point lead.
2 baskets.
What are you talking about?
That's not Maryland.
14-point change right there.
Oh my God!
14 points.
You're right. It's unheard of in basketball. There's never been a 14-point swing
and
in
talk about Lamar.
basketball. So weird.
Lamar's more.
Towson's
more controversial than Lamar.
What I give, he does not have the context. He has no idea what Pat Skerry walked into. He has no clue how pathetic that program was before.
I'll give you the context.
Yes.
Glenn and I were on the team.
Correct.
Pretty close to it.
Like he does, and I get it, and I'm giving Griffin a pass because he's young. Like I understand that you don't have the context for this, and it's frustrating because you want your team.
They won one game, Pat Skerry's first year.
That's, by the way, it was a miracle they won one.
Right.
It was a miracle. To say the cupboard was bare, there wasn't a cupboard.
Yeah, right. They built the cupboard, and then
Correct.
It was bare. Pat Kennedy took the cupboard with him.
It was insane, the situation that they walked into at Towson. Insanity that they've been able to get the program to this point to be regularly consistent. Again, I'm disappointed too.
And they were always going to have to play College of Charleston in this tournament.
Right.
They were, if they didn't play them in the semifinals, they were going to play them in the finals if they were in the other side.
Correct.
Like they were always going to play them. They were all, and look last night, UNC Wilmington had them dead to rights. They were up by 8 or 9 with 5 minutes to go and couldn't hold the lead.
Charleston's ridiculous.
College Charleston's
They're
really
ridiculous.
good, man.
They're worthy of being in the NCAA tournament,
really
but
good.
wouldn't have gotten in had they lost, which is a bummer.
I know.
Like, in a way, it's justice that they won the tournament to make sure they didn't get robbed of getting into the NCAA tournament because it's insane how good they are. This is nuts. It's difficult. It's very difficult. Let's get into Would You Rather Wednesday. Would You Rather Wednesday is brought to you by Birdland.
I'll say yes.
Very good. It's brought to you by Birdland Sports. I would show you the Birds Are Coming T-shirt, but I took it home for myself because it was the one that I want. You want one of these? You want the?
Yeah, I'll take one for Ethan.
I'm
not a big fan of the team.
This is the Mountain, the Felix Batista shirt. You could have
he won't be around in July.
The Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah, give me
shirt.
that.
There you go. That one's for Ethan.
What
there
size
you
is
go. I don't. It's probably too big for him.
Oh no, it's an XL. I'll take it.
All right. Well, these
What's
are.
the other
I
one
think they're all
over there?
XLs for this. This is the Birds and the Wire lettering.
Nah, I'm good.
And
with
this
that.
is the 2023 World Series champion T-shirt.
Oh.
That it's also XL.
Oh. No, I'll take the
All
Gunnar.
right, you got that one. That one's yours.
He might be around for a while.
Very good. I would like to hope.
Until he goes to the Red Sox.
Oh, let's not do that. Let's not do that. All of those shirts are available right now at birdlandsports.com. Buy O's fans for O's fans. Price is cheaper than the big guys, but the quality of the product remains the same. I'm going to give away today that Birds Are Coming T-shirt. Look, if you really want a different one, fine. But that's the one. Like my man Conan sent me a message. He went ahead and bought his. I had a couple other people, Kimberly, who messaged and said she went ahead and got hers. You don't have to wait to see if you win. You can go ahead and order yours now. But we're going to give one away to someone who participates at random in Would You Rather Wednesday today. Get your responses in at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter or Facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. And be clear. Be clear, if you order your shirts right now from birdlandsports.com, you will get them in plenty of time for opening day if you want to rock it at the ballpark. Would you rather, number one, it's all Lamar for Would You Rather Wednesday today. Would you rather, number one, the Lamar Jackson contract gets done today and we never have to talk about the topic again?
Yes.
Or the lease gets done today and we never have to talk about that topic again. Number two. Hell, we'll just go one by one.
Well, I mean, clearly you would say Lamar. The Orioles aren't leaving. Anyone who thinks the Orioles are leaving has no idea what they're talking about. The Orioles aren't leaving.
To me, it's
Lamar.
about the annoyance of the topic to me, right? Like,
I totally understand, but I couldn't care less about the lease. The Orioles aren't going anywhere. Give me Lamar 10 times.
We agree certainly on that behalf. Go ahead.
I would agree that it's an annoying, it's a booger somebody put on your back and you can't reach it with your hand. But like the Orioles aren't leaving.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how I feel. Because if they're not playing at Camden Yards, where are they going to play? They're going to play in Towson. They're going to play where are they going to play? So
they would be leaving.
That would be the point,
city.
right? Yes,
but they're not leaving.
Yes.
Well, yeah, because they're not. Yeah, exactly. They're not leaving.
Although they might draw better at Towson.
I mean, I think they would. It's a smaller ballpark.
So yeah, I mean,
the 3,200 who come out might jam the Sherholtz Park.
I actually love going and watching games.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, to get a Lamar deal done today, yeah, I'll take that.
By the way, this
Easily.
it's funny because people are answering this question not thinking the way that you're thinking. I think clearly the people are answering this question thinking about the possibility of the Orioles leaving.
They're not going anywhere.
You and I know that, but it's interesting.
Jeez, a whiz. People are insane.
It's interesting how split this is. And there's still a couple of people that involved are just people that are done with Lamar that are getting in. So that's sort of how their answer is coming in. Number two, would you rather? The Ravens have Lamar Jackson.
Yes.
With Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers as their top two receivers next year. Or Jimmy Garoppolo with DeAndre Hopkins, Rashad Bateman as their top two receivers, and a first-round pick they can then use on whatever else they'd like to use.
Give me Lamar. I mean,
I can't wait because we're gonna have fun with this one.
Oh please!
It's
just a joke.
We're gonna have fun with this one. Wait a second.
This is a joke.
Wait a second.
No, this one is easy because I want Lamar. Any scenario where there's Lamar, I mean. The scenario where I was saying I would like Jimmy Garoppolo is if Lamar is not the quarterback.
Yeah,
I know what scenario you want Jimmy Garoppolo with. If you're going to Federal Hill on a Friday night,
now that part
and
is
whatever,
true. Well,
whatever he throws away, you can have.
I was gonna say it's the opposite thing. He would take away everything.
I mean, whatever. Like Jimmy Garoppolo, please. In any scenario, you want Lamar.
Well, I agree with that.
Yes,
this was playing on. All of a sudden, Griffin's become a big Jimmy Garoppolo guy in the last.
There's 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the league forget the money.
If it's not Lamar,
forget the money. Dismiss the money. There are 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the league that if mythically they were available and you could trade them for Lamar, you would do it. And that's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. And even then, a couple of them have to think about it, right? Like,
I'm sure.
You definitely do it for Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, probably. And I by the way, that's the end of the definites for me.
Maybe. Yeah.
And
yeah.
even Allen, I'd have to think about
but I
a
would
little
say
bit.
I would say the knee-jerk reaction would be Lamar for Allen, definitely. Lamar for Burrow, definitely.
Yes.
Lamar for Mahomes, definitely. Then you would throw in Mahomes for Herbert, maybe. But that's it.
Right. Correct.
Jimmy Garoppolo, might as well give me the other guy, Prendy or whatever his name is.
Who? Purdy?
Prendy or whatever the hell the guy's
Prendy.
name is. Purdy or Purdy or whatever.
I'm pretty sure.
Just please.
That's the Rihanna's lingerie line.
Go
that I
on.
think that
Yeah,
you,
right.
that you were confusing
Right.
him with. Yes, far more Lamar for this one than Garoppolo.
And Geno Smith, we didn't throw him in.
He's done. He's not on. He's not right. Correct. That you would trade straight up. Obviously.
Right.
Yes. That's.
And the Seahawks lost their
that's your
mind.
guy. Well, did you look at how the contract was structured?
What is it? He pays them?
No, it's more. It's more like it's definitely a 1-year deal.
Right. It's Geno Smith.
They and by the way, I wouldn't be committing to Geno Smith for 1 year.
I wouldn't commit to Geno Smith for 7 days.
I understand that.
But okay.
But it's definitely a 1-year deal.
Right.
Everything after that is kind of to be determined.
Right.
The Daniel Jones thing.
What number is he
going to
wear, by the way, Brissett, with us?
You're in love with
8
Jacoby
probably.
Brissett. Here, I'll give you this one. Would you rather Jimmy Garoppolo or Jacoby Brissett?
1,000,000% Jacoby Brissett.
Wow.
In a heartbeat.
You love Jacoby Brissett.
No, I just.
By the way, I don't even know what the answer to that question is, just because I don't know which one of them is actually
We
better.
almost lost to Jacoby Brissett here last year.
That did happen. That's a thing that was.
By the way,
real.
if their coach doesn't go for a 56-yard field goal into the wind,
All right.
we might have lost that game.
And I misread number 3, but I'm going to alter.
Okay.
Number 3 was Lamar Jackson does end up elsewhere for 2 first-round picks. Would you rather that be Washington or New England? I thought the anti-Washington
I'm telling you
sentiment-
right now, the snake in the grass and all of this is New England.
Right? 100%.
I'm
They're the team
telling
that's
you
just sitting
right
there.
now,
Yep.
the snake in the grass.
Oh, and we know that he loves him. We know that. He loves him.
And do you think for 1 minute, when Bill Belichick goes into Kraft or any personnel person and says, I want Lamar, and they say, Bill, you know we have Mac Jones, Belichick's going to say, no, we don't.
Correct. That's a fact.
You figure out what to do
they
with
tried
him.
to bench him last year.
Right. I'm telling you, New England is the snake in the grass in this.
So I'm going to alter
I have a weird feeling, man.
I'm gonna alter this because rightfully so everybody's coming in on Washington. It is the correct answer, Washington. But I just thought that everybody
Newland's
I
got
don't
the
care
14th pick. Washington's got the 16th.
I mean, what are you
Right.
saying? You don't want him to go there
because you hate him.
cosmetically? Oh,
Yeah,
I couldn't
because
care
you hate
less.
him. Right. That's
Yeah.
and look,
I couldn't
almost
care less.
everyone's coming in that way. So I'm going to alter the question.
Let him go wherever he wants to go.
The problem is the Indianapolis holds the 4th pick. So pretend they've traded down for the 20th pick.
Give us. I got a deal.
Wait, listen to me.
Give us the helmets back.
Okay, you can make
Give
a
us
deal
the
with it.
helmets back.
Would you rather it's New England for the 14th pick or Indianapolis for the 21st pick?
Well, I am so philosophically opposed to helping those creeps out there. I probably would say New England. And if they, but wait a minute. But if I would say to New England, you can't ever, I can't see Lamar in the old Pat the Patriot helmet. Because if I saw him in that helmet,
It's on me.
I would melt.
This is on me, man. This
Lamar,
is on me.
but then if I saw Lamar in the Colt helmet, I
Yeah,
would melt.
I understand, but you got to pick one.
I'd rather him go to Indianapolis, I guess.
All right. The 21st.
But what if we said
7
that-
picks? Shut up! I gotta
Just
go.
let me say this.
I gotta get to Peter King.
Well, forget him. What if I said this?
You're so mad that he wouldn't talk to you today.
What if I said this? We're going to change names to the teams. We'll give you Lamar. If I'm Bisciotti, I call him and I say this.
But wait.
I'm going to give you Lamar.
This is a genuine question. Do you
Oh,
want?
you
wait.
think
Do you
I'm being-
want the name and the colors back, or do you just want the history back? Or if you would say you can't be the Colts anymore, we're not going to be the Colts.
I would love to do that.
You can be the Indiana.
Well, you know what I'm gonna
You can
say.
be the Indiana Racers or whatever you want to be.
You know what I'm going to say.
You would.
100%.
Yeah.
But that's me.
I know.
He doesn't care.
I know.
Ethan
I know.
doesn't
I
care.
understand
They
that.
don't know the Colts. So I'm saying it.
And by the way, I'm not even really
I'm
all
doing
that
the
mad.
old man yells at the cloud thing.
No, but I'm adjusted.
You guys
to
can
this
call
point.
yourselves the Indianapolis Ravens.
Right. All
There's
I want.
birds out there.
All I want is the history back. That's all I want.
Here's what I would say.
Yeah.
We'll let you sign Lamar.
Yeah.
You give us 3 first-round draft picks, and you think I'm kidding. And you also, a Hall of Fame can no longer identify Johnny Unitas as an Indianapolis Colt.
Yeah.
We'll do the deal.
I'd settle for that for sure. I really would too. I'm not even kidding. I would 100% settle for them never being able to send it. No. They'd have to give us
give us picks. But
Okay.
John Mackey never played for you.
A couple of people have brought this up. The idea of couldn't the Ravens try to still negotiate with a team that made an offer sheet? They could, but like, what would the context be? Give me how that would work.
Well, the only way it would work.
Right.
Here's how
the Ravens
it would
have to match first. They'd first have to match.
But here's how it would work. And I'll just throw this out. Lamar goes to just make them up. We got him. Lamar goes to New England, D.C., and Indianapolis. He goes to those three.
Yes.
Those three teams come in and they go 271, 277, 280.
Yep.
And Lamar can then pick and choose. Lamar might say, well, 280 from Indianapolis, but I'd rather get 270 from
Atlanta, whatever it was.
Right?
Correct.
Submit that one. The Ravens would have the ability to say to all three of those teams, right? Hey, how bad do you want him? How bad do you want him? We'll trade him to you. How bad do you want him? Like you've got to deal with him.
Well, they'd have to match the offer sheet.
Right, sure.
First, they'd have to match
100%,
the offer sheet.
but you're going to do that in advance anyway.
Right.
And if I'm Atlanta and you call me and you go, look, here's the deal. You know about the other offers, I assume.
Right.
How bad do you want the guy? We want him. All right, we're going to match it, and you got to give us 3 first-round picks, and you got to give us Johnny Unitas can't be called the Indianapolis Colts.
Correct, 100%, and then it's done. Yeah. Now, how Atlanta's going to do that, I'm not
I have
sure,
no
but
idea
I'm interested.
Make a deal with the Colts.
Yeah, let's talk it out.
But anyway, I think I think Eric is probably doing this. Like, Eric is telling every team, we'll match your offer for sure.
But it has to be an offer they can, and that's where the wonky part comes in, right? Like, if that team says, we're going to put $80 million in the first year so that we know they can't match it and we can get you for 2 first-round picks, then it becomes problematic, right? Like, now, why a team would do that, it's going to hurt them too, right? Like, why a team would do that is beyond me, but it would have to be
Dude,
a very...
I'm just telling you that somehow, some way,
you're just trying to
going
get
to New England.
Oh, I wouldn't be stunned at all. All right, Griffin, you get to answer as well.
I mean, the
14th
Colts,
pick.
The Colts,
You would take the better
I don't
pick.
want to see him as in the Patriots.
Or you
can
take
probably
the worst
package.
pick,
Yeah. You can package that 21 and 22. Probably get back up there. Go get Stroud.
What number is Mac Jones going to wear here?
So you just
what number?
We're gonna bring in all the former Patriots quarterbacks
What
next year. It's
number?
gonna be Mac Jones, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jacoby Brissett
right.
all on one roster together.
I don't trust that
Quantity
guy in
over
New
quality.
England. I don't trust him.
Oh, I hear you. I completely hear you. All right, what's your deal? Do you want to wait around and let me talk to Peter King, and then
probably not.
you're gonna duck out?
I'm on this Tiger story.
All right, find out what the story is on Sunday, so I know that I'm doing it.
No, I'm talking about the Tiger story. It's breaking today.
What the hell's going on?
His ex-girlfriend is there's an NDA that she signed. She now says, I don't want that to be legal because I've got things to say.
Oh.
Which is code word for
she
wants to get paid.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting.
Anyway.
All right. Drew's Morning
It's
Dish.
the big story in golf today. I'm taking Scotty Scheffler.
Very good. Drew'sMorningDish.com, at It's a Hooded 4-Iron on
Ravens.
Twitter, and Fairways and Greens probably on Sunday.
Hope,
maybe on
I
Sunday.
think.
We'll see.
Unless our Terps can come through.
Our Terps, he says now. Our Terps. A number 1 fan.
Went to more games this year than you.
That's a fact. Went to more games this year than I've been in the last 5 years.
All right.
My God, you are a number 1 fan. Drew Forrester checking in with us. Hey, the Baltimore County Police Department is now hiring. Maybe we can get them to look into collusion. Maybe we can put them on the case. They've got cadet salaries starting at over $32,000 a year. Entry-level officers over $60,000 a year. Lateral officers. Yeah, I think he's going to get a little bit more. Lateral officers over $64,000 a year with a $10,000 signing bonus available for both entry-level and lateral officers. 410-887-5542 is the phone number. Join BaltimoreCountyPD.com if you have a passion for service and want a career for life. The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. We actually had to do this a little bit earlier on today because of his very busy schedule, but an opportunity to catch up with the great Peter King here on GCR. We're joined now here on GCR by an NFL writer extraordinaire, someone who's going to try to help us make sense of everything that's gone on in the last 24 hours with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. From NBC Sports, Football Morning in America, he is the great Peter King. Peter, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's always great to catch up with you. Thank you for taking the time for us.
No problem, Glenn.
I'm going to ask in the dumbest way possible, how did we get here, Peter King?
Well, it's a very simple part of negotiations. One side thinks he should make X amount of dollars. The other side thinks that's excessive. Not necessarily the dollars, but the guarantees. And what I think has been really almost ignored by so many people who are talking about this and writing about this and talking about collusion in the NFL and all that. I think the one thing everybody is forgetting or severely minimizing is the fact that Lamar Jackson has missed significant time with injuries in the last 2 years. He has, in fact, missed 34% of the offensive snaps in the 21 and 22 seasons. Now, when that happens and the player makes his living in large part, he's averaged 10.4 rushes per game in his career. He's going to get hit a lot. And it's not his fault. That's what he's great at. But it's hard for me to sort of blame the Ravens for saying, okay, look, we realize you're our franchise guy. We love you and all that stuff. But if you're not playing, you're not doing us any good. And I'm sure that those who are arguing Lamar deserves guaranteed money is very simply because I think they say, well, look, he got hurt playing the way the Ravens want him to play.
Yep.
But to me, that's sort of a chicken and egg thing. You know, if you're on the field, you're playing and you're worth it. If you're not on the field and you're not playing, you're not worth it. And I just sort of look at this, and I think that's what it comes down to, simply. I think the Ravens would be anguished to pay him a guaranteed contract for 5 years, and I'm not even sure they would do it if he had a pristine bill of health. But the fact is, he doesn't have a pristine bill of health, and I think that's a huge part of why we are at this point right now.
So let me separate two different things. I understand certainly someone in your position can't just throw the word collusion around, right? Like, it's a heavy thing to say, and I'm not expecting it to be something that you would say. But for teams that are desperate, for teams that have nothing going for them, for teams that have been moribund, for a Washington, an Atlanta recently post Matt Ryan, a Carolina, like, is it odd to you that they would say, yeah, we're not going to even dip our toes into the waters?
Well, odd, but, I hear everybody saying collusion, and there well might be. But what you are then saying is you are accusing someone if you say, oh, yeah, there's definitely been collusion. You're accusing people of doing something that I think you don't have any proof of. And wouldn't it be logical if Arthur Blank, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, who just had a monstrously onerous quarterback contract with Matt Ryan, how would you feel if you were Arthur Blank and you were told that you were going to have to pay $240 million guaranteed to a guy who's missed 34% of the snaps the last 2 years? How does that solve Arthur Blank's problem? It might. And Lamar Jackson might play he might play the next 100 games. And you know what? I really hope he does. But the fact is, I think that it's a word that is going to be thrown around by so many people in the coming weeks and days. Collusion. It's being thrown around right now. Okay, prove it. That's what I say. And, I just think that, and again, people can think whatever they want, and they're going to think. We live in a media age where nobody really cares that much about the facts anymore. They form an opinion, and that's it. But in my opinion, where I come from in journalism, prove something before you say people are colluding. And, in my opinion, if I'm the teams that you mentioned, and again, look, I think this is a gamble that Washington I'm not saying they should or they shouldn't, but if I were Washington, I'd take this gamble.
Yeah, I would as well.
I would.
Yeah.
I don't think it is a slam dunk the way many people think it should be.
Peter King is with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. Peter, all this being said, there is a certain percentage, and I would admittedly count myself among them here in Baltimore, that no matter how it ends, just want to see this end with Lamar Jackson as the Baltimore Ravens quarterback because there's nothing fun about going through a quarterback search. Do you think the events, the totality of it, not just the non-exclusive tag, but the at least reports of a number of teams being out on this, do you think that the chances are greater that somehow, some way, this ends with Lamar Jackson still being a Baltimore Raven?
I don't have a great feel. I wish I could say, yep, Lamar Jackson's never going to play for the Ravens again, or, oh, Lamar, it's all a lot of bluster and he will end up back with the Ravens. I don't know. And the reason why I don't know is because Lamar doesn't have an agent. No one has heard from Lamar.
Yep.
No one that I know anyway has heard from Lamar. And so therefore, I don't know. He might be so incredibly dug in that he says, the only way I'm playing football is for a totally guaranteed contract for $45 or $48 million a year. And that is what none of us know right now. I don't know it. I would be surprised if the Ravens knew it. So I wish I could sit here and look into a crystal ball. It's just too cloudy.
I understand. I completely understand everything you're saying. Do you think that there's a chance that some of these teams – one of the things that I said yesterday, Peter, and I've said this so far this morning is everything I know from my own reporting, which is not nearly at the level of yours, but everything I know from my own reporting is if a team isn't sure that they're going to end up getting someone, they certainly don't want to make it seem like they lost out on someone. So I take everyone who's denied so far with a bit of a grain of salt. Not saying that they're all lying as much as I don't know yet what that is. Do you think that it's possible that any of these teams that have so far told reporters? Yes.
I'll tell you one thing that when I saw that story yesterday, I kind of smiled because one of the general managers of the teams that was mentioned, I talked to for 45 minutes at the combine. A half hour, it was about Lamar. And so what do you think?
Yeah.
Tell me what's been your experience with Lamar?
Yeah.
This is what the questions were to me.
Yeah.
And we're going back and forth on it. And I left and I said, well, this team is probably going to stand pat, but it's not out of the question that they could fly to Miami and meet with Lamar and try to investigate what really is possible. So, that's why I think you're absolutely right on this. I don't take any of that stuff right now as fact.
Yeah.
But I will just say, I forget all the teams that were mentioned, but, there are teams like for instance, the Miami Dolphins. They are absolutely rock solid right now on Tua. They're not going after Lamar. I know that. But there are some other teams that have been mentioned as they're not going after Lamar that I would just have a little raised eyebrow about.
Okay. I think that's a very fair way of saying it. Peter, do you make anything of a bigger fight here? Do you make anything of there being heels dug in? The NFLPA is involved. This is a fight not only about guaranteed contracts, but it's also maybe a fight about the future of the franchise tag, and that this thing could still have a ton of twists and turns involved. Like there could be a world where maybe Lamar chose to sit out for the year. So, do you make anything of this being more significant than just sort of a contract dispute at this point.
I mean, it might be, but I don't know that.
Yeah.
I don't, I just don't know that. But I wouldn't eliminate that from being a possibility. The problem is every great player who gets tagged always screams that the franchise tag is unfair. And then every year when there's a new collective bargaining agreement, the players vote to approve, to ratify the collective bargaining agreement that includes the franchise tag. So I have zero sympathy for the players about this issue. I have zero sympathy for the NFLPA on this issue. If it's such a big deal, fight for it and say we are not playing football unless you get rid of the franchise tag.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Otherwise, I just think it's a bunch of baloney, honestly.
No, I get what you're saying. Look, they have been unwilling to give up game checks. Like that, this is then every time this comes around, they have when it gets to the end of the day, and you're going to have to give up actual money. They've tended to cave every time so far.
And I don't think that's wrong. And look, everybody killed. I don't kill D. Smith. You want to know why? He's doing what the players want him to do. Now, he may not be doing what Aaron Rodgers and J.J. Watt want him to do, but he's doing what the guys who are at the lower end of the food chain want him to do. They're going to have short careers. They don't want to miss any games. So don't blame D. Smith. He's reading the room. He's doing what the majority of his players want. And if the majority of his players wanted to miss games and to fight for it, that he would do that. He's not dumb. He would do the will of the players. But as of right now, the will of the players is not that.
No, it's very clear. Not for the majority of them. I completely understand that. Peter King, what can I plug for you? Obviously, we're going to NBCSports.com.
I have nothing to plug. Just read my column every Monday. But Glenn, can I just finish and just say one thing about this?
Yes.
You talked about how, and everybody has talked about, oh my God, Ravens without Lamar, it'd be awful, it'd be terrible, and it would be. They developed him, they took him from the last pick of the first round, and everything went well. And yeah, there have been some difficult moments, and I think probably he hasn't really loved the offense of Greg Roman all the time, but it's overall been an extremely successful marriage. That is what would be said, not the rancor. The rancor will be forgotten, but what won't be forgotten is the fact that this guy came along at a great time for a city that is 63% black, that, reveres its athletes, as so many cities do. And he is a really good guy. You see him around town. He's a good guy. And that to me is what would be really sad if this didn't work out, because I think there would most likely be a lot of people in the city who would be down on the Ravens significantly if they don't give Lamar what he wants. But in my opinion, that's just not the way business is. It's got to be a two-way street. And as of right now, I think the Ravens feel like it hasn't been one. Maybe Lamar feels the exact same way.
I think you're correct in your assessment, and I think there is a lot of angst surrounding what happens here from a lot of people in this city right now, Peter King. But, hey, look, this is probably where I should say the Ravens have made a lot of very good decisions, and there is a difference between the Ravens and the, Washington Commanders or the Detroit Lions, or insert team name here, that we know significantly. At Peter_King on Twitter is how you follow him. Truly appreciate you taking some time. I know it's a busy week. Thank you so much for doing it, my friend.
Hey, no problem, Glenn. Enjoyed it. Have a good day.
Sports with us here on GCR, and there's a couple things there. One, Peter King, because of his stature, I know is not just going to throw around the word collusion the way that some other people will. But I don't think that the other thing you're not going to hear him do is say, well, it's definitely not collusion. His point is sort of kind of nuanced, like I'm not comfortable just saying that without there being any basis yet in fact. I'm not telling you that I know that the teams have colluded. I'm telling you, it'd be unreasonable to think that they haven't. In so many ways, this is a business. They have an antitrust agreement, but they also have the ability to monopolize. And if they can get 32 individuals to all agree to something that behooves them, that's a lot easier to do than to get every fan or every player or all it takes is 32 people to all get together and say, no, we're good. And frankly, in a situation like this, it's not even really 32 because some of them don't even have to agree, right? Like if the Chiefs don't agree, if the Chiefs are like, well, yeah, we'd give a fully guaranteed contract to Lamar Jackson, it's irrelevant because they're not a factor in this. So you don't even need 32 people to all agree. The Browns already did it, right? Like you only need 24 people to be in agreement. We're not doing this. We're not going there. It would be unreasonable to dismiss it. It would be unreasonable for you to come on today and say, there's no way in hell this is about collusion. Stop, man. That's just stop. You're spitting in the face of reason when you do that. Can we prove it? Of course not. Do I ever think that Lamar Jackson is going to sue the NFL? Probably not. Probably not. But as has been brought up, this morning by Mike Florio, like there is already, a ongoing, legal issue between the NFLPA and the NFL over this issue. So it just might not be necessary. The NFLPA might just say, don't do that because we're already handling that. We'll take care of that conversation. You worry about you. The other element to all of this is that I keep saying it doesn't always have to be collusion per se, as much as it's there's no way for me to it still involves collusion. So that's wrong for me to dismiss. I don't know that every team it's about it might very well be that some of these teams would say, dude, we're not doing this because we want to hold the line. We're doing this because ultimately we've made our own decision about something. And that does have to be considered in this process. I can't try to make it seem like there's no collusion involved. The reality is it's not all that relevant. I asked this question last night. If you're Lamar Jackson and you believe that the entire league is conspiring against you, what do you do now? What's next? What's the next step in this process? To just deal with it? To just say, well, it sucks. That's the way the world works. I want to play football next year, so even if everybody's conspired against me, I'll just take, whatever the Ravens' best offer was. What's your next move? Is it to try to fight? Is it to regroup? What is it? And I ask that question because I genuinely don't know what the answer is. It's easier for us to sit back and say, dude, you got a chance to get a lot of money to play football. Just take whatever the money is that's there. Whatever the Ravens offer, just take it. Or if somebody else offers it instead, take their offer and let the Ravens match it or not. Just do that. But if Lamar Jackson internally and the people around him have said, this is what I'm worth based on how the market has unfolded, that's what I'm going to go for, and you look around and you believe that this group of people has conspired against you, what's your next move? And to be abundantly clear, I don't know the answer. The answer might be, because now it's easy for everybody to say, well, the Ravens have the leverage back. The Ravens have the leverage back, right? Like, they have the ability now to look at any offer and say, we'll match it. And if the offers aren't there, then he's got to come back to their table. And it's easy to say that. But what happens, by the way, the Ravens, now that they've used tank, that can't change. $32 million is sunk into the cap. They're going to have to make moves just to get under the cap by next week, even just with the $32 million number. But what happens if he gets to July and says, by the way, I ain't playing for $32 million? Now, you've made all of your moves around that $32 million figure. He says, I'm not playing for that figure. If you want me to actually get on the field, you're going to have to give me $45 million. Or I'm not playing unless you give me that fully guaranteed contract I asked for to begin with. And the Ravens say, well, that's insane. Nobody's offered you that. That's not what the market is. What are we doing here? And he says, too bad. I'll sit out the season. I don't care. Now, you've sunk $32 million into your salary cap for a player that isn't available to you. So you can say the Ravens have all the leverage. On paper, it feels that way. But that's because we don't know what Lamar Jackson is or is not willing to do. I can't tell you that Lamar Jackson's willing to sit out for the season. I don't know that. But what if he is? What if he is so dug in about this topic that he's willing to sit out for the season? Then what? It's killed you. You've got no quarterback, and you weren't able to use that cap space to go get better players on the football field. It is really fascinating if it didn't affect us. Like, if we were sitting in a city where they had already locked up their quarterback or where we were confident that you were, like if the Chargers, they have a bunch of cash. Like, if you're a Chargers fan and you're confident the Chargers are going to lock up Justin Herbert, this would be fascinating to you because it doesn't affect you. If you're in Kansas City, you'd be like, wow, this is really interesting because you don't care. I mean, in some world, it makes your life better. If it,
like, oh, wow, they might not have Lamar.
You know, if he goes to the NFC or if he sits out for the year or something like that, it's great news for you. But it's fascinating because we don't know. We just genuinely don't know. Where Peter King and I agree, and I tried to say this, I think we were overreacting to all of these reports yesterday. I'm telling you that some of these teams that have said to someone, like when Mike Florio says, well, you really think, are you saying that a team would be okay lying to a reporter? They lie to everyone. They hold press conferences, and they lie to every reporter. To say, well, yeah, you risk, really messing up that relationship. What is the problem there? And I mean this. Whoever it is that said to Diana Rossini, by the way, which was just hours after another, and I don't remember the name of the reporter, that put out a story that the Falcons were and the Ravens had been heavily involved in talks. And I'm sorry, Matt Lombardo, if I remember correctly, who I believe was based in Philly for a little while. And like Matt Lombardo is not certainly at the level of a Diana Rossini, but he's not a fly-by-night guy either. He's not a guy that's just a Twitter influencer that is alleging that he's making a report. He's someone who has legitimate reporting chops. Reports one thing. Diana Rossini reports they're out on him. Later in the day, Peter Schrager says not only are they out on him, they've never been in on him. Well, okay, I'll tell you that's definitely not true, like from my own reporting. Now, I have no doubt that someone told Peter Schrager that. I don't think Peter Schrager's lying. I think someone from the Falcons told him that because if they're not going to get Lamar Jackson, they don't want anyone to think they lost on Lamar Jackson. But I also don't think that it will end up, what does it hurt them?
If people thought.
No, I'm saying the other thing.
Okay.
If they say to Diana Rossini, no, we're not doing this. And then in 2 weeks, they look around, they sniff around the market, and they say, we can make this happen. Let's just do it. What does that hurt? They'll just say to Diana Rossini, hey, something changed. That's all they'll say. When we talked to you, we told you the truth. We weren't in on him. And then, we got some more information, and that changed. Diana Rossini, it's this thing where when somebody reports something, will it irreparably harm Diana Rossini? I don't think so. She'd be disappointed, abundant. Like, she would definitely get a bunch of crap on Twitter. Oh, I thought you said they weren't in on him. She'd get that. But again, they would say, we told you the truth. On that day, we weren't in on him. And then the market changed. And we changed our minds. Which could be complete. It could be that as of yesterday, they're in on Lamar Jackson. They just don't want you to think that because they don't know that they're going to get him. I just don't put any stock at all into any of these reports. any of them about whether a team is or is not. Peter King's point about the Dolphins may or may not be true about I don't know, right? Like, Peter King's comfortable saying Tua's their guy. I can't tell you that at all. What I can tell you is the answer can't be Miami for Lamar Jackson. They don't have a first-round pick. They can't put an offer sheet in. You can say, well, they could put an offer sheet in after the draft. That is true. They could do that. They could put an offer sheet in after the draft. At that point, the Ravens would be damn well sure to make sure they match that offer sheet. Well, then maybe the Miami Dolphins could offer a trade. But the draft is already passed.
Yeah.
But why would the Ravens be making a trade after the draft when they can't go get a quarterback? You can say, well, they're just going to live with whatever stopgap quarterback they can get, or they love Tua, right? Or the Ravens say, we'll take a chance on Tua in a trade. It's hard to...
Rather have Lamar Jackson?
Well, obviously, rather have Lamar Jackson. The question is, do you say, all right, we'll take our chances on it?
Yeah.
You wouldn't want the compensation to be for a future draft. You'd want to make sure you have immediate draft compensation.
Is all these teams saying they're not interested? Is that is that them trying to, I guess, make Lamar's value look less than what it is, so that they can kind of lowball him when they do eventually negotiate with Lamar?
Possible. I mean,
Yeah.
but I do think it's way more about saving.
Eventually,
I'm telling you, it's way more about saving face. They don't want the next. If yesterday 3 teams come out and say yes, we're interested in Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson just ends up having whatever deal matched by the Baltimore Ravens, then you're going to position all throughout the year when whoever your quarterback is struggles. Every story that's written about it, every time you reference them on one of these shows, they're going to say, remember, they lost out on Lamar Jackson. And they might have done nothing wrong. They might have put the best offer they possibly could together, and the Ravens just matched it. And now they're going to be viewed through the prism of, you lost.
Lost out on Watson, and you lost out
If you're the Falcons specifically.
Yeah.
You lost in 2 consecutive off seasons. You lost on the guy that you wanted. Despite the fact that the Falcons felt last year like they made the best offer they possibly could to Deshaun Watson. They would tell you Deshaun Watson was a Falcon. They were preparing for a press conference. And now they're going to be viewed as the team that twice lost out on the court. They don't want that, and I understand it. There's the other part of it where there's a reason why Ron Rivera keeps saying Sam Howell is his quarterback. Because right now he is. What is he supposed to say? We don't have a quarterback? Well, what happens if Sam Howell has to be their quarterback next year? What happens if they don't go get a quarterback? And they don't have a choice. And now Sam Howell walks into a room, you didn't think I was good enough. You didn't want me. Why would you do that? Why would you create that unnecessary awkwardness? What is the benefit of that? To us, it's honesty and transparency. But what does that get them? What do we give them for being honest and transparent? What benefit is there? Do we buy more tickets over honesty? There's no economic benefit to them being honest. The only thing it can do is make it awkward. Imagine right now the Miami Dolphins saying, yeah, we want to go get Lamar Jackson. After everything they put Tua through last year. And then Tua just being like, okay, cool. You clearly hate me. And then them having to turn around and be like, all right, buddy, you ready for the season? It's insane. It's patently insane for a team to publicly come out and say, yes, we want that guy, if they don't know they're going to get him. And especially in this circumstance, because they're not likely to be found out. There's not an agent to go leak something out and say, here are the teams that are in. Here are the teams that we're talking to. They can do anything they want, essentially under the shadow of night. So there's no reason that the Houston Texans or the Indianapolis Colts or whoever would come out and say,
well, those two.
Well, they don't really have a quarterback that they can end up pissing off in the process. I understand that there's a little bit less of a risk there, but still, they would still be judged by missing out on the quarterback. You're taking a loss you don't need to take publicly. You don't need your fan base to think you're the team that missed on a quarterback. Somebody might say, well, we at least like to see a swing for it. That's not the way that we operate as a society. We're a society that dunks on. That's what we do. We don't build you up for missing. We dunk on you. That's who we are. That's social media. That's all of it. You failed. You missed. You didn't do this. It's all we ever say about people. The Chris Rock thing happened this weekend. Chris Rock is one of the most accomplished comedians of a generation. And for the overwhelming majority of people, he's the guy that got slapped. That's the way this works. If you're one of these teams, if you're the New York Jets and you're interested in Lamar Jackson, you would far prefer for people to think you're not interested in Lamar Jackson. Because if you don't get him, you don't want anybody to say they're the team that missed on Lamar Jackson. It's easier to say, we didn't think it was a shrewd business move. We like Lamar, but we think we can build a team in a different way. And not have to deal with that. The connotation of you lost, you failed, you whatever it is. We still have to take a break, don't we?
Yes.
I screwed that up. All right, my fault. I mean, it's a busy day today. Don't forget, speaking of busy, get busy getting your bets in by going to PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Bet $5 with DraftKings and get $200 in instant bonus bets along with other great incentives and promos when you sign up at PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Tid-bit and Tubular to wrap it up. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Baseball season is finally here, and what better way to celebrate than with some fresh gear from Birdland Sports. As a small business run by O's fans, Birdland Sports offers a great selection of unofficial merchandise, including unique designs like Birds Are Coming tees, player cartoon shirts, and championship prediction designs. And the best part, their prices are more affordable than the big guys. Get high-quality gear without breaking the bank. So whether you're heading to the ballpark or watching from home, show your love for the birds with Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com today to browse their collection and gear up for the season. Let's go O's.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Have you experienced hardship due to COVID-19? CCBC has great news for you. We have funding available for short-term career programs like project management starting this March. Gain valuable skills to advance your career and get back on track. With CCBC's project management program, you'll learn how to effectively plan, organize, and execute projects. This is your chance to make a positive change in life. Contact us at 443-840-2222 or online ccbcmd.edu for more information. CCBC Project Management. Your new career starts now with funding available. 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu.
Another Orioles season is in the books, and the Bat-Around was there every step of the way as the Birds posted their first winning season in 6 years. And after promoting 2 #1 overall prospects in Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson, Mike Elias has said it's liftoff from here. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, and along with my co-host Zach Goodman, we'll be here every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon all off season, discussing every signing, trade, and waiver claim as we navigate the cold winter months that lead to spring training. You can watch us at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or listen live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. And if you miss a show, you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. So tune into the Bat-Around with Paul Valley and Zach Goodman every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here at PressBox Sports.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
If you need more of Glenn, you can also hear him every Sunday with Rita on 105.7 The Fan. But also, if you need more of Glenn, what's wrong with you?
Hey, we are going to do another charity bracket contest this year. Brian Powell's gone ahead and set it up for us. Here's my goal, 25 people, $20 each. $10 will be spun off to Show Your Soft Side, a wonderful animal charity. Unfortunately, with the new arena opening and the time frame of it, they weren't able to do Project Runway this year. It just was not plausible. They're going to have to take a 1 year off for it. So it'll be back next year, but we're going to try to help them out. Just raise $250. That's it. We just want to raise $250 for Show Your Soft Side, an amazing animal charity locally. So we're going to ask $20 to buy in, all the same ways you got in for everything else that we've done, Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. If you got any questions, hit me up. I'll let you know how to get in. I want to fill 25 spots. If we fill more, wonderful. There'd be more money involved, right? I wouldn't go beyond 50 just because I want everybody to have a chance. But we'll do a charity bracket contest with the goal being I just want to raise $250, and then there'd be $250.
Well, no one's going to have a chance because I'm in.
So. Oh, because you're in.
Yeah,
all right.
So.
Well, then there you go. Look at that. Griffin's calling a shot right now that he's going to be the winner. Did you win the bowl contest?
Yeah.
You won the bowl
I did,
contest.
yeah,
That's
so.
correct.
I'm hot
so
right
there
now.
you go, right? You can make it back-to-back. That is totally possible. We're going to do that. If you want to get in before the brackets open, go ahead and hit me up, and we will make sure that you get your spot in our charity bracket contest. Let's get a tidbit. Tidbit of the day is brought to you today by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique. I always struggle with those two. It's like for your unique. It just kind of runs together. Your unique personality. I'm going to try it off from the beginning.
A lot, yeah.
Today's show is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
For short term.
Yeah, if you think through it a lot, you can get there. Now, again, it's a sentence. Read it in a sentence.
All right, a couple NFL Draft Combine records that were broken, of course.
These are always my favorites.
Yes, tight end out of Old Dominion, Zach Kuntz, now is the tallest player with a 40-plus inch
Very important that you
jump.
pronounce his last name correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Zach
Very
Kuntz.
important.
Zach Kuntz. Would you like to try to guess who the tallest player before that?
I don't know. Jimmy Graham.
Not Jimmy Graham. It was Mario Williams.
Oh, how about that?
Tallest,
he was a freak, man.
Yeah. Kansas State's running back Deuce Vaughn is now the shortest player. I struggle. I don't know short. That word. Shortest player ever measured at the combine since data was started being tracked in 2003. He is 5'5". Deuce Vaughn, the running back out of K-State.
I don't know him. Yeah, I don't.
He was. Big.
I don't remember.
Back.
He was shorter than Darren Sproles.
Yeah. Well, measured at the so how tall is measured at the combine is
I remember Darren Sproles being really short.
Yeah, he was very short. And then Ohio State's offensive tackle DeJuan Jones, he weighed in at 374 pounds at the combine. That is the second heaviest player ever weighing in at the combine. Would you like to try to guess who the heaviest is? It was last year.
I guess 5'6" was Darren Sproles. Last year, the heaviest player. Last year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was last year.
I was definitely going to say Terrence Cody because I remember what he looked like at the combine. It was not good. I don't remember. Who was it?
It is a Raven.
Oh, Fa'alele.
Yep,
yeah,
Daniel Fa'alele.
Sure.
384 last year at the combine. And then Lamar Jackson was franchise tagged by the Ravens. We've only been talking about it for 2.5 hours. He is the 8th player to ever be tagged by the Ravens. Do you think you can name the prior 7? And who the very first one was?
So Matt Judon, obviously.
Yes, Matthew Judon was most recently.
Terrell Suggs definitely was.
Terrell Suggs in 2008 and 2009.
Wasn't the first one Wally Williams?
That is correct. 1998, Wally Williams.
Now it's remembering who all the other ones were. Oh, this is going to drive me nuts. Because I know these. That's the funny thing. I guarantee I know all of them. And those are just the ones that immediately shoot at me because of the circumstances.
Those two were the only ones that didn't get that.
Oh, McAllister, definitely.
Yep. McAllister. 03 and 04. Wally Williams and Judon were the only two to not reach long-term deals, yeah. So maybe that's why they stick out.
Man. Ray Rice?
Yes, Ray Rice in 2012. He was franchise tagged. So you have 2 more?
I'm thinking. Okay, I have 2 answers that I think are the answers, but I'm going to feel really stupid when one of them in particular is wrong. I think one was Haloti Ngata.
One was Haloti Ngata in 2011.
And the other... hang on, let me think about this for a second. I'm between 2 guys. Because one...
I'm not sure. Hey, I have no clue who you could be thinking. I mean,
well,
I'm obviously looking at the answers, so...
Right. I'm trying to remember. The first 2 names that jumped to mind were 2 guys that I'm pretty sure they didn't tag and they just let walk. I know they just let Bart Scott walk. They just let him go.
That's correct.
Which was bizarre, right? Like, as in 08, I don't think they used it. Or in I guess it would have been 07.
08 was Terrell Suggs.
Oh, right. Correct.
Because they tagged Suggs twice.
But I'm saying 07.
Oh, okay.
Because it would have been 07 going into 08. No, it would have been 08 going into 09. You're exactly right. That's the reason why they couldn't tag Bart Scott. Remember, Ray Lewis was also a free agent after the 08 season. And I'm almost certain they just let Adelius Thomas walk, too.
You'd be correct.
So was it Justin Tucker?
It was Justin Tucker. 2016, they franchise tagged the kicker.
I had to work through that a little bit.
Good job, yep. That is courtesy of Jamison Hensley. He tweeted that out right away, had that ready to go after they threw that tag on Lamar.
Kyle Ottenheimer questions the fact that I haven't booed, because I used to boo his tidbits. I used to boo when Kyle's. When Kyle would have a bad tidbit.
Oh, you would boo.
I would boo it, and I haven't done that in a long time.
I mean,
you
didn't like Mondays, and it was kind of fair, but
the trivia was awful. I mean, it was just awful. It was worthless. But he's right. I should have booed that. The tidbit part was, the tidbit part was nothing. He's not wrong about that. The trivia was relevant and fine. Like, that was good, relevant trivia. But the tidbit part was...
with the combine stats?
Who the F cares?
Everyone cares.
No one cares.
Why are they out there?
He's not wrong about that. And in general, I have probably not held you to the standard that I held him to. Now, in fairness, Kyle, you also worked here for about 1 billion years. We might be getting to that point with Griffin that I'm choosing to. I booed his opinion about the Pat Skerry earlier. I definitely boo. I would outright boo. I would legitimately boo. This sucks.
Oh, at his tidbits.
At his tidbits sometimes. So I probably should. I probably should hold you to the standard that I was. There is a point that's being made here. I can't lie about that.
Right.
Points are being made. And Kyle, I will give you credit for that. There's a relevance to that. Your boy Sean got in to say, I don't see how when whatever team struggles midseason, it's better that people will say, "Can you believe they weren't even interested in Lamar?" instead of they tried to get Lamar and get better and lost out. You can rewrite history. Like, you can always down the road say we were in on Lamar. If that's what you're worried about, you can say that. But what you can't do is preface a loss. There's no need to it. There's only when you get into the season, the games will decide how the season is going. Right now, the only thing you can do is take losses on guys that you don't get. So why take more losses? So in season, the argument is it's not nearly as relevant. It's relevant for right now because there's no wins or losses to get. All the wins or losses are coming by what you do. They can always project that they're going to draft a quarterback and they feel good about that quarterback, whoever it ends up being. But if they put out there that you're in on somebody and you don't get them, then we're going to judge that as a loss because that's what we are as a society. So to say it's less relevant in season, sure, it's less relevant in season because there are games to be played, and we'll measure you by the wins and losses that you get in those games. And if you're 3-10 next year, it's not really going to matter because you're going to be effed. But in the off season, you can have a great off season, even if your team stinks, because you hit on everything you wanted to hit on. And that's what they always say. That's why every team comes. That was always the guy. Have you ever had a team walk into a draft press conference and be like, every video you see after a pick is made is what? They cut live to they're high-fiving, they're losing their minds. Do you believe for a second that every team got exactly the guy that they wanted with that pick?
There was the video of the Titans with Vrabel after, was that after the A.J. Brown trade? And
I vaguely remember something like that. But I'm saying, do you actually believe that every team, or all are they thinking about is how do we position this?
We got the exact 7 guys we want.
That it looks like a win. And the other part of it is relevant too, which is that I said you don't want to say to the quarterback on your roster, we're trying to replace you, because you might need that to be your quarterback. You don't say it if you don't have to. You just say, now after the draft, when you draft your guy, you're going to say what? You're going to say, hey, we still like Desmond Ridder. If the Falcons take Will Levis, what are they going to say the day after the draft?
Got our guy.
But we still like Desmond Ridder, and we believe in Desmond Ridder, and we think that Desmond Ridder's got a bright future in the league. They're going to do that thing because they're not going to trash a guy, because what might happen? Will Levis might get hurt during training camp, and who might have to play next season? Desmond Ridder. So they're not going to come out and say, we're trying to replace Desmond Ridder. They don't want to do that because Desmond Ridder might have to play. Now, yes, it's still going to be awkward if you draft Will Levis. It was clear that you wanted to replace Desmond Ridder, but you didn't say it. You presented, player was too good.
Yeah. Well, Will Levis was there. Yeah.
We had to take him. We had no choice. Player was too good. It was the value of the pick. We had to take him. And that's what you say the entire time. And Desmond Ridder might know better. He might be like, yeah, okay, clearly you don't think I'm good enough. But you don't need, it's saying something you don't need to say. Be like walking in the night and being like, baby, this dinner just stunk. It's just terrible. It's awful. Why would I do that? What is the benefit? I still ate the same bad dinner. I'm not going to get a new dinner out of it. All it's going to do is make her mad. And I want her to cook dinner tomorrow night. By the way, this is not a gender roles thing. She gets very mad if I try to be the one that cooks. It's actually a problem in our relationship. But you just don't do it. It's not necessary. Tubular. Tubular is brought to you today by the print issue of Press Box, which is available right now for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms and at the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. Read it all. PressBoxOnline.com. Gunnar Henderson's on the cover. Great story from Luke Jackson. Mount St. Mary's, Iona, 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus in the quarterfinals of the MAC tournament tonight. There's a Pittsburgh audio broadcast on MLB.TV of Pirates-Orioles today, 1 o'clock. Vince Velasquez, Kyle Gibson. If you've got an MLB TV subscription, you can listen to that. Big Ten Network Plus, Maryland Women's Lacrosse hosts William and Mary at 5. The CAA Women's Tournament gets underway from CQ Arena today on Flow Hoops, 2 o'clock, Wilmington and Hofstra. It's pretty funny, right? Two of the best teams in the men's league are meeting in the 13-12 matchup or whatever it is today in the women's tournament. Big Ten Tournament gets underway tonight on Big Ten Network. Ohio State, Wisconsin at 6:30. Minnesota, Nebraska at 9. Obviously, that's the relevant one for Maryland because that will determine their opponent tomorrow night, presumably Nebraska. But, as was pointed out, Minnesota won a game recently, so who knows? Rest of the college basketball schedule you can find at glennclarkradio.com. World Baseball Classic. Everybody was into it last night. Apparently, I kept seeing Twitter was all in on the World Baseball Classic. Fox Sports 1 tonight for Korea, Australia at 10. Fox Sports 2 for Netherlands, Panama at 11. MLB Network, Cardinals, Yankees at 1. An exhibition between Team USA and the Giants at 9. Hawks, Wizards at 7 on NBC Sports Washington. TNT, Blackhawks, Red Wings at 7:30. Ducks, Canucks at 10. And on Paramount Plus, neither of these games is on CBS today in the Champions League. Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain at 3. Tottenham Hotspur and AC Milan at 3. Did you see that our buddy Andrew Stecca is over at Wrexham right now or something like that?
Is he really? I did not see that.
I don't know what all he's doing, but he's overseas watching soccer. And I know that I don't know if he went to the Wrexham Stadium, but he watched Wrexham play. I had no idea, which is very cool.
He's doing that first before his punishment.
I'm wondering. Well, I'm assuming that means he's going to see the Spurs today because that's the team that he cares about. But maybe I don't know. It's right. That's a great point. He had time to fly over.
He's flying across the.
But he didn't have time to fly back to Baltimore.
Just gonna skip over Baltimore.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a hard date from him yet either, and I'm thinking about adjusting our summer schedule too. I need to get in on that.
Now that I mentioned that, I did remember last night we have not done our bean popsicle.
Oh, I need you to message Melissa and figure that out. Yeah. You gotta. I told her, reminded her. You gotta nail that down. Figure out what Melissa can do. Then we'll deal with Proctor after that. We'll figure it out. TBS for AEW Dynamite at 8. But thanks a lot for the reminder, by the way. Yeah, thanks a lot, jerk. Go ahead. It's 12:35. Go.
Okay. All right. New episode of Survivor tonight. That's huge, obviously. Seth Meyers is going to have Nick Kroll on. The United States premiere of Farmer Wants a Wife, new dating show on Fox, is tonight at 9. It was like a long time Australian dating show. and now they're coming to the States, and it's essentially just The Bachelor, but with cowboys, and they do cowboy activities.
I saw a promo for it. There's zero chance I'll ever look at it. So
sadly, it is the season finale of Power Slap on TBS.
I don't know what you think is sad about that. May it never return.
New episodes
The
of History
sad
of the
part
World.
is that they didn't cancel it before now.
Yeah, that. Yes, new episode of The Mandalorian, new episode of The Bad Batch on Disney Plus, and a documentary on Netflix called MH370, the plane that disappeared, the Malaysia flight.
We still,
no one knows
to
where it
this
is.
day, have not found.
Documentary of that on Netflix.
Every year around New Year's Eve, I start thinking about it. We went an entire year. I normally tweet about it, like every year on New Year's Eve. Another year has gone by. We still haven't found. We just lost a plane, and we're like, well,
So
it's just gone now. And people, tragic part of like human beings.
That was like on the trailer there. Like, this is the largest mass, or the most unknown, I guess, mass murder.
Yes. I don't know if it's a murder, and we don't know what happened. Where are they?
Well, yeah, I guess they could still be alive. Well, I mean,
we've known nothing. I mean, they're obviously not alive. We would know at some point that there was a survivor. Well, I say that. I mean, maybe they're living like Tom Hanks and Castaway.
Did you see
somewhere.
Plane yet?
No, I didn't see Plane. I should watch Plane. I should. I still haven't watched Cocaine Bear. I gotta.
That could explain this. That could explain Malaysia. I don't know.
All right, very good. Thanks today to Drew Forrester. Thanks to Peter King. Thanks to Mike Florio. Thanks to Will Brinson. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Remember, gambling can be fun, but you should set a limit. Stay within it. And if you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. Anything tomorrow?
Eric Edholm.
We'll do a draft segment with our buddy Eric Edholm from NFL.com. That's it?
Yeah, stuff and things.
Ooh, boy. Probably more of this, if we're being honest. Probably more of this. That's just the way it's going to go until it's over. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell. Somebody messaged me yesterday complaining. I'm like, dude, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to say? I'm fatigued, too. I don't want to go in and do it every day, but this is what's going on. Nothing matters in comparison. No offense to everything else that's happening. I love lacrosse. I love
Mount St. Mary's basketball.
Mount St. Mary's basketball. I mean, look, they beat Iona. That's a great story. They still have 2 more games they'd have to win in order to win the MAC tournament. But, I hope the Towson women win the CA tournament this weekend. That'd be great. I hope Maryland wins the Big Ten tournament. That'd be amazing. But, still pales in comparison. It's just what it is. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Baltimore County Police Department, Problem Gambling, Royal Farms, Costas Inn, CCBC, Birdland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Don't forget, you can still get in for Would You Rather Wednesday. We'll pick a winner tomorrow morning for the T-shirt from birdlandsports.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Wednesday evening. Go Mount St. Mary's. Duke sucks. Ohio State's. Nope, just Duke sucks.